Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 203 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Folks, tonight we're off to the glorious town of Quebec City. I was going to say city of Quebec City. That's too many cities. We haven't had too many pods from Quebec City, strangely enough, and we're fixing that tonight. So this brewery has, I think it was one of the first places I went there back in 2020. We did a campaign with the tourism folks at Quebec City, and we went out there because at the time it was obviously balls deep in COVID and things were pretty chill out in the eastern Quebec. So it was really nice, and I got to meet a bunch of folks from the brewery and understand what they're doing out there. And then we subsequently went back again in April for a brew day, which we're going to get into. And yeah, man, it's been really cool to get to know the guys and to understand what they're doing out there. And they've got some of the most memorable labels in the province, if not the country. If the first beer we're going to have, if you haven't seen it, I'll be quite surprised. But yeah, really excited to get into the story and talk more about the region and just shine some light on great breweries in the area, because I really do believe that Quebec City doing some of the best beer in Canada. So, folks, let's just get right on into it. So let me get this correct here. All right. I always do this really awkwardly, but one of these days I'm going to get it right. Hang on, no, I'm going to do that there. Folks, please welcome Jean-Michaël from Noctem in the building. There it is. And I didn't get it. Hey.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great to have you, man. Thank you for hanging out. And man, it's a long time coming.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure, really.
It's a beautiful thing. I actually forgot you and I specifically met when we came in 2020. We met Brian at the time, and we had Brian on the pod for the Link Up episode. But last year, you and I met at the OCB conference, Ontario Craft Brewers Conference. In November. And I think you were like the only person from Quebec there, which I thought was so smart and such a cool move.
I think I was. Yeah. It was really cool meeting all the other brewers from Ontario and getting some new ideas. Yeah.
Was that the main reason? Was just to sort of like network a bit and see what people are doing, get inspired?
I do that once or twice a year, trying to get new ideas. I don't know what will come out of those trips, but I like doing them. Going at a conference was my first, though. Usually I take a beer festival or something like that and bundle that with a brewery tours, so I get to meet people and see stuff. There's always something that comes out of it. Sometimes it's ideas for recipes, sometimes it's just great people that will meet back some other day, or never know.
I love that. The for this last trip, so obviously November you were there, and we met I know we met at the festival. We were hanging out at Collective Arts, and actually as well, shouts to you connected me with Ben from Breakside in Portland. Yeah. We're hanging out with you, me, Dan from Zenon. I think there might have been someone else there as well. And yeah, you met Ben earlier, so you introduced, and then we got him on the pod from them, which was super cool. So I appreciate that. And then you also came down for the event, which I guess we'll talk about when we drink the collab. And I hope you got to check out a bunch of breweries on the way down and back.
Or I did something like
good
10
nice.
Small number of breweries.
Hey,
I had a couple of hours to spare.
So you had some time to do it. Well, that's pretty sweet, man. It's a bit of a trek from Quebec City all the way to Toronto. So I respect that hustle. So with that, brother, let's get into your flagship beer. The beer that easily definitely was the first beer I ever had from Noctem, and the most famous is the glorious IPA Catnip with the, look at this cat. Tell me you haven't seen this label. I feel like even if you're not in Quebec, you've seen this label. I remember when this came out, this was such a big deal. It was just because it was like in Quebec, I felt like Quebec labels took a while to get good. Not that it was great in Ontario either. For a while, craft beer labels just weren't great. And I feel like this, when did this beer first come out?
2017, I think. First, it was brewed at first at Ashlag. We did it at the pub. Then it was released in cans from Ashlag for like 3 or 4 batches in those years. Then we
Right.
brewed it here at first in 2018. So the first time it came out of our facility.
Was from there, and it was on distro in 2017, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
a bit,
Okay.
so much back.
Gotcha.
It
That makes sense.
wasn't it's better these days. That's all I say.
Yeah. Well, I do definitely recall this beer being like, because Quebec was also a little slow to the haze game as well, and I remember this being one of the early New England IPAs that you could get relatively easily, which was a godsend back in the day, because it was just like, to even find one locally was difficult enough, but to find one that you could just go to the store and get it in Montreal or whatever without having to go to a brewery was very difficult. So it was just such a big deal at the time. And did it feel like a big deal to you guys, or was it more like, do you see it that way? Do you see it as like a big sort of like important step in Quebec beer as well?
Yes and no. I'll say that we were brewing in those days. Those beers, they were brewed for us because this is what we wanted to taste. This is what we wanted to brew. We thought we were amongst the best for sure. And yeah, you're right about the distribution and the availability of this beer. We thought we were amongst the most available, most reliable, and for those kind of styles across the province. But really, we were kind of young. We were in our project. We were heads down into work. So I can't say I recall much of it.
Yeah, I can only imagine, particularly back then when things were crazy. So with that, brother, cheers. Welcome again. This smells amazing.
Cheers. Thanks. I thought it was worth revisiting because those things, some people, they tell us all the time, yeah, I've had Catnip. I know this beer. Let me try something else. And no, man, just give me a minute. Try it once again. You'll see it's not quite the same. We're getting better every time. So it's worth a revisit.
I couldn't agree more. I already feel like this is definitely a larger, bolder beer than it used to be from memory. I feel like it probably wasn't this murky. Like, this is murky right now. This head is gorgeous. It's so bright and tropical. I imagine it was probably still very bright and tropical back then, but I imagine one of the things that's changed is the body as you guys had sort of improved your processes. Is that fair?
Yes, I think you're right that for some details, some things that we might not have seen coming, but some small things like propagating our yeast have led to better haze stability. And when you build up a good haze, it's not only for the aspect of it, it jams flavor into suspension throughout the beer. So yeah, it smells bolder, it tastes bolder, and it looks murkier.
Gotcha. That makes so much sense. And I'm looking at my Untapped here. The first time I had it was July 2018. So I guess I got it around that time. So this is super cool. So tell me about this beer specifically. So it was brewed back. So was this like was it like a homebrew recipe or anything like that, or was this something that you did professionally immediately?
Yeah, it was a bit after our most prolific homebrew days. We'll get into that maybe a bit farther down. But this one was really designed by three of our owners, myself included, coming back from trips to Vermont and trying all those beers, trying to figure out how to bring that here, that kind of taste that impressed us so much in those days.
Right. Yeah, keep going. I was about to ask. The only thing I want to ask was the hops in this beer. What do you know what it is?
Yes, we went for staples at that time. We brought equally weighted Simcoe, Citra, and Mosaic. Okay. And one of the other small changes that have led to a better beer, I think, is hop selection that at first we couldn't do because of our volume. But right now, and it's been a few years, we select our hops, and it helps a lot.
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely, like, this tastes, it's so bright, so fresh. And this is only canned like 3 weeks ago. This is super fresh can as well. It's so juicy and so aromatic. I feel I'm almost like, and I think you nailed it. Like, revisit this beer if you haven't had it in a while. It's not the same beer that perhaps you think it might be. If you've had it, you've been drinking it since 2017. Perhaps some people out there have been trying it, and maybe you're going, trying to try all the new stuff all the time. This is crazy, and this has certainly changed a lot. Okay, I cut you off. So it was after the homebrew days, and it was introduced in 2017. You just went through the hops. Was there a specific beer in Vermont that inspired it, or was it just kind of generally with what was happening down there?
In those days, it was generally, but I can say the beers from the Alchemist, foam brewers were up and running at that time, and Hell Farmstead for sure. So that kind of vibe.
Gotcha. That makes complete sense. The one thing as well, like to talk about, and I wonder if is it worth talking about was this the first cat beer that you guys did?
Yeah.
No.
It was. It was the first.
Okay.
It's the OG. Yeah, it's the first beer we put in can with that contract at a schlag, and so we had to build a label for it. The idea was really to have a cat kind of ecstatic about catnip and the relationship with the hops, which we wanted it to translate to people and hops, and a kind of vibe, not getting you high, just getting you not euphoric, but very saturated in emotion, I guess. So that's what we wanted.
I like that.
That's what we wanted to translate in that visual. It took a couple of iterations, but I think we nailed it with this one, and it became the baseline for the other visuals after that, when we saw how people reacted to it. And for people who can't see, the cat on the can is kind of wide-eyed with hops raining around it, and a kind of psycho background, heavy in color, bright colors. And as you mentioned just before, you said the labels took a time to become funkier and maybe more expressive. And in those years, this kind of label was really standing out. These days, it's not so original, but at the time it was.
It really, really was. Like, if people remember who've been into beer a bit, but at least I can speak to Ontario and Quebec, the labels were a lot to be desired for the most part. There's some very dated things, and people like some of them had just like word art, like literally like from Microsoft to Word type of fonts. There was one specific in Ontario that had that I was like, I always boggled my mind, but everything kind of just didn't look great. So when something came out that looked like this, and just a crazy looking cat with a name, and people know what catnip is, and then you got the hops going down, you're like, oh, okay. And then it was a hazy IPA in it. It makes you be like, yeah, what's this about? And like, shit, it jumped out on the shelf. And I know that the beer stores at the time, Vertu and Bière and what are the other ones in Montreal, Peluso and things like that. Like, I would imagine I felt like it was always prominently displayed. So I felt like they would have been excited, and they would have known that this is something that the kids are gonna want. Particularly the people who can't get what you're making here locally because they had to go to Vermont or somewhere else to get this style for the most part. So this was definitely ahead of its time. This beer was called Catnip? Okay, the logo, which is on my glass here.
And
there
it's
you go.
On the side of the can, also the full Noctem logo.
The full one, perfect. Now, it was always a cat.
Yeah. The whole idea always revolved around cats. Do you want the origin story of that?
You know what? That's actually perfect. Let's just get into it then, since it's a good segue. So the real question that I always going to ask was tell us about your beer story, and then how that leads into the brewery. But if you want to tell the brewery cat stuff, and we can jump back to your story, that's also fine. Whatever makes most sense.
I'll start with the cats, since we're just right there, and people mostly wonder why cats. It's a question we get asked a lot. And at first, there were 5 of us, and I was the last to come in the project. Come back to that a bit farther on, but the idea was kind of calling the pub Black Cat Pub, the Pub du Chat Noir. And it's so common that we needed to revisit the idea, because if you want to Google that, you'll never find us across all the noise. So we figured we needed a more unique name, but then we wanted to keep the cat ethos, the culture around it, like the independent counterculture kind of nightlife, because we were opening a brew pub, so we thought it all fitted very well together. So we took a step back and we said, okay, let's brainstorm our name. And we figure with a lot of work, 5 guys across the table, you can hardly get everybody on board on something important like that. But we finished with Noctem Artisans Brasseurs, and we wanted to have the cat as a logo, as an image, and that's how it was brought to life on the logo. And then afterwards, when we were thinking about the labels, cats were brought back, and we were like, okay, let's use the cat once again on this visual. And so that's how it kind of was brought to life. And with the success that the Catnip label had on people, the effect it brought to the marketplace, it was at that point a no-brainer to us that we needed to put cats on every label.
Okay, that makes sense. So does Noctem, is that just a made-up word?
Yeah.
Does it mean something?
No, yeah, you're right to come back to that. Noctem is from the night, nocturne in Latin. And it was derived from carpe noctem, which was more like seize the night, being productive at night, which all led to the brewpub vibe. And it was the idea that connects everything.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that. I guess as soon as you said Latin, I'm like, yeah, of course it is. Like, it feels Latin.
Yeah.
But I know
and we were glad that it was easy to say both in French and in English, because as you know, we try to have reach with a brand, but here in Quebec, you have to be very aware of the words you use and the language you use. So you need to keep French as much as possible. Latin kind of works sometimes. So that's how we figured.
Okay, no, I totally can see how. Like, yeah, because I thought it was a French word that I just hadn't come across yet. I didn't necessarily think it meant something to do with cats, but that makes so much sense. That's actually really cool. I like that thoughtfulness about it as well, and taking, an adjacent language, or at least like one of the mother tongues that therefore births French and English and everything else, and leveraging that. That's awesome, dude. I love it. So then let's get into your particular story. Then we'll lead into a bit more detail, because I think you're right. I'm glad we did the cat thing first, because I feel like keep people waiting like that. Man, just what? Because I never knew that either. We haven't had this pod, and I never ask you. Every time we're hanging out, we're talking about other stuff. I never asked you about the cats. How did you personally get into craft beer, and then how did that kind of lead to the brewery?
So I was studying in Quebec City. I'm originally from Abitibi, which is northwestern in the province of Quebec, and there wasn't any craft beer there. So it wasn't possible to me to be exposed to it. But when I came here in Quebec, me and my roommate, we were kind of just trying stuff out from the store. At that point, we knew nothing, so we were like, let's try this one. It was kind of a reward for us after studying so much. I was in actuarial sciences, and that was kind of the idea: study, have a beer, go to sleep, reset, do it again. And after a while, I became very interested in beer. We had some folks with which we were tasting a lot, and getting that palate, that vocabulary, which at first seemed so daunting to me. I was like listening to those guys. What are you even saying? I can't understand a word. It made no sense to me. But after a couple of years, and then all of this makes more sense. And then you learn what you like, what you want to taste more of, less of, and which brewery are trustworthy, which are less so. And after a couple of years, I became a bit more interested, and I dove a bit deeper. I read the book John Palmer, How to Brew. Since it's kind of technical, so I was at the end, I was like, if I went through all of this, I might as well try it because otherwise it's wasted. So that was the first thought, and I was just getting ready on all of that, and I heard that there was a couple of guys at the university that had a kind of a social club, which was called Microbrew at the time. It was in at the department. I'm not quite sure how it was called in English, but it was derived from Genie engineering department, which actuarial sciences belong to. And that's where I met Jan. I first met him, which is one of my partners now. And I was asking him, hey man, I'm wondering, just trying to start into beer. He was brewing for a while. And I wanted to know if I was better starting off with extract or directly with grains. And he told me right off, the biggest mistake I made was to brew for so long from extract. It was never good. And you should start from the grain. And that made a lot of sense to me. So that's how I kind of got started with just small hints and a book on my own. Some guys, they start with friends, and no, I'm more of an autodidact kind of guy. So I started off that way. I brewed a lot in those years, and I spent time with the guys tasting and always coming back to through that kind of environment. And people which were always great to hang out with. At that point, I graduated. After a couple of years, I started to work, and a few years after that, I heard back from them. We caught up at the Festival de Bière, a beer fest here in Quebec, and you guys were like, "Hi, we're getting serious about this thing. We want to start a brewery. Are you in? Do you have the interest for that? We're looking for a guy with a finance background, more administrative kind of skills. And are you in?" I was like, "If you're not wasting my time, I'm in. Otherwise, I have other stuff to do." So that was kind of the idea. I did both for a year almost, because it took us like 14 months to open the brewpub. Everything started off from the brewpub in Saint-Roch in Quebec. And I worked at both places. I was working at the Jardins, in the insurance department because of my background. So at some point, I felt it was stable enough for me to jump in. But sometimes folks wonder, they say, hey, maybe you didn't like what you were doing, which is not quite right. I loved what I was doing as an actuary. It solved puzzles and it's a lot of fun to me. So I loved it, but I loved beer too. And it was the right time to try that because I had no house, no family, nothing to lose. So getting some risk on, it was the right time. And I was very aware of that. So I was like, if it fails, I can always come back. And I felt very confident that I could have an escape if I had to. But it went quite well, and we were at a good place at a good time. Timing is not something that you always control, which in that situation we didn't control at all. But we were at the right place at the right time. So it went quite well for those first few years.
Well, what year did you open the brew pub?
2015, if I'm not mistaken. 15.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're about to go on 10 years, October 1st this year.
Amazing. Congrats, brother. That's amazing.
Just after you guys.
Yeah, not too far behind at all. So started with the brew pub, everything was brewed in-house with no packaging then. Is that correct?
That's right. So we had some of my partners were brewers. So we at first there was 5 of us. We lost 2 along the way. I'll cut that bar chart. And so right now there's 3 of us: Brian Pierce, Jan Gavel, and myself. Both guys are mostly on the production side, but we manage everything together. Brian is quite involved these days with the brewpub and the kind of R&D that goes on there, also with the packaging side of things. And Jan is more on the brewing operations right here, the brewing staff and the recipes, R&D. But we kind of, since we're all from a beer background, guys brewed, Jan brewed at La Barberie before we started. Brian brewed at Les Trois Brasseurs and also worked at La Barberie for a while. We all have a kind of technical background. Jan studied physics, Brian studied mechanical engineering for a while. So we all dabble into the more complex stuff and into recipes. Some of the recipes are more Jan, some of our all of us, some of our more me. It all depends. So it's a lot of fun to be able to share and brainstorm with the guys and not have everything rely on one sole brewer, one sole accountant, and that kind of vibe. So after 10 years, we share and we separate things kind of organically without even having to draw the lines firm, because we know the strengths of each other. And yeah,
dude, that's sick. That's awesome. I love that. That's a really cool story. And then particularly I liked it as well that you did like your job, but you thought you'd give this a crack, and you came into it. It was 2015. That's kind of like the exciting time when it was looking up. Like beer was like starting to get more popular, but it wasn't at the peak of like 2017, 2018 when like it had already hit. Like you got in earlier than that, which is super dope. So the brew pub, when did you, I think you said, was it 2017 was when you started to decide to do some contract brewing at Oschlag? People who don't know, Oschlag I think
it was 16. Yeah, I think it was 16 for Oschlag, and kind of in those years we were starting to plan for the factory, and then we dabbled into contracts to test the market as we were going. We figured it was kind of a proof of concept and very low risk for us to start that while we were working on the project.
Smart.
So yeah, Oschlag, I don't think they're around. It's been a whole thing.
They're a part of the mess, right? The Triani Trans Brew thing.
Yeah, but at that time, at that point in time, Oschlag, Gutenberg, Trans Brew,
exactly. Yep.
They were
killing it.
They were good people. They were good folks, and it was working fine.
Yeah.
Everything went to shit afterwards. But that's
so I heard. That's a whole other story. I've a few people were catching me up on it recently. It just sounds like a fucking nightmare. But either way, so Oschlag were a big brewery. They made their own beers, but primarily they started as like a contract brewery. So if you were in Quebec and you needed a contract brewing, you almost always went to Oschlag at the time. At the time, they were kind of the best in the IPA game, contracting too. Yeah, and I remember Sean from Avant-Garde worked there because that's when he started his, and he's a great brewer as well. So I think
he was the best brewer there.
Easily, and that's why he started his own brewery and was able to make his own beer contract out of there until they started their place in the same building. But it was, so that was a pretty good time for that. So that made sense. So that was 2016. You started doing that. Why did you choose Catnip as that first beer?
At that point in time, it was our best IPA at the brewpub. So it was the one we were most proud of. It was the one selling the fastest at the pub, that we had the best feedback. So yeah, that's why. It was picked as a flagship, and it stuck to us ever since. But that beer, it's kind of unique. It aged very well because back in the days, it was the aromatics and the haze that made it stand out. And what was always true, and I think something that is helping that beer right now, is it was always very drinkable also. So it's not a cloying beer. It's not it's not too sweet. It's not too hard to have one and another. So it's something that right now people are seeking out. So I think that having both aspects to it helped it age well through those years.
And the improvements, I guess, that you made along the way too, to just
for sure.
thing, like you said, tweaking the tweaks. And I think, I don't know, I like it when breweries do that. They take a flagship. They don't make it a different beer necessarily, but they'll move with the times. Where back in 2016, 17, I mean, obviously it's hard to look at that time and put ourselves now back then, but at the time it was it was like one of the very few available hazy IPAs in Quebec, and that the, you know, and I guess as brewing, I feel like hazy IPAs weren't that murky back in the day, like anywhere. And I think they just got murkier and murkier over time as people maybe got better understanding of yeast and hops and all that type of stuff to sort of, like you were explaining
Mostly
earlier.
process. At that point, it's mostly process. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So you ran with Catnip. Now you started work on the production brewery, which is where you're at now in St. Malo. That when did you guys start work on that?
I think it took us about a year to get it up and running. It was quite quick. We opened in 2018, so 2017 on those years, similar to when we went out contracting, end of 16 maybe.
Same time.
Yeah.
Was it always the plan to start with a brew pub and then move to a larger facility, or sorry, not move to, have a separate location so that you can create stuff for packaging? So then essentially you're splitting the business where you've got the...
It was.
Yeah.
It was kind of, looking back, naive idea, I guess. But what we thought about everything beforewards, we were like, do we start with a small space, only retail, or bigger space, restaurant? No restaurant. We jungled with all of that, but we figured that having the brewpub first was the safest way to go, which is not quite the case in 2025. We'll come back to that maybe later, but we thought that having the direct feedback from the consumer would be our biggest and best tool to the road to success, because we would just try things, people will give us feedback, and then we'll tweak things to make sure that people actually like what we do. So that access to consumer we thought was very important.
I you know what, I know we're going to talk about it after, but I kind of think that like I've seen it come full circle, like that the neighborhood, you know, brew pub has become more of a thing now, particularly beers in a weird place. So I would like to dive into more of that in a bit, but I think that's a smart plan, and I think it might even be a smart plan now. If you're going to open a place, it might even be better to have a, you know, you either got to go balls to the wall in either side, like either just like run with that brew pub vibe and get that, like, the neighborhood thing and get that immediate feedback, or you go big in the distribution phase. But
I think
that's
both
really cool.
Can work, but
yes, they can.
You have to go differently maybe than what we did at first, because we were not, like you mentioned earlier, craft beer was kind of at its high in those years or close to, but we were not aware of that at that time.
Of course,
we can see that now, but at that point we were clueless about it. So people just came in and tried our beer because they were curious about craft beer, which maybe right now it's harder to do, and you need to be more active through marketing, through event, through innovation in food. I don't know, but I think if we were to do the same exact thing right now, we'd get eaten up by the market. We would get chopped into pieces. Right back in those days, people were forgiving. They were very happy to be there. Right now, you can't do the same mistakes. I think you need to come with more experience to market. You need to be more knowledgeable about every aspect of the business before coming in just a bit. I was quite young in those days. I was like 23, just naive and loving beer.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, I guess that's almost sometimes what it takes, is that naivety and that just sort of like, I don't know, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, and once you're jammed and you have to figure things out as you do. I do that sometimes on purpose. So,
right. Yeah. Hey, well, it worked 10 years later. That's pretty impressive, man. So then, you know what? How do you feel about? I know I've been making you talk a lot more. How do you feel about jumping on that next beer? Then we'll keep continuing on. By the way, this is fucking phenomenal. I cannot express how much people need to go and recheck out Catnip if they haven't. If you haven't had it in a while, it's 7.5% too. As well, yeah, this is genuinely exceptional. Like, I love this. I love this so much, and it's so easy for everybody to get. Like, that's the beauty of something like this, and I think I'm glad you included this, because one, we're telling the story, so it would have been, atrocious to not have this beer, but also it's cool for me to revisit it as well, but to also just see those changes in the beer, and to see sort of where it's gone. I think this is exceptional, man. This is really, really good. I'm stoked. What are you feeling up next, brother? What are you feeling?
I would propose jumping right down to Moggie, the collab that we made for your 10 years. Then afterwards, we'll be more casual and some other exceptional beers, but we'll get that out of the way in a good way.
I love it. In a good way. I love it. This is the order that I wouldn't have anticipated. So this is fun. I think this is great. So we'll put a pin in that story. So this beer, I'm extremely excited about this beer. This is, as JM just said right here, this is Moggie, our beautiful collab, a double IPA collab that we did for our 10-year anniversary, which we just celebrated in April. And JM and Yan came down for the event, and we went up to Quebec City for the brew day, which was super fun. But and also, I'll let you tell all the stories about it. Like, if people notice the cat and the
label
there,
yeah, it was
sick, dude.
Lot of fun, really. When we do collabs, we always try to get a synergy with the two brandings, get them together in some way. So as we were thinking about this one, we tried a bunch of things. At first, we tried going with an illustration, but then I found some cats that worked very well with the idea. So anybody that has seen you taking your selfies, open-mouthed, kind of wide-eyed, kind of screaming, I don't know how you describe it, but
that sounds good.
We found a cat kind of yawning, but it seems like it's screaming, and we put a podcast mic just beside it. So I think the effect is quite well done.
I think you nailed it, dude. It's so good. When on the brew day, when we came up, you were showing us the pictures. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I love it. It's so good. So we, obviously we reached out to you for the collab in, I guess it was last year. And I think it was after we spoke, actually. I think I might have even mentioned to you on I met in person. And because we weren't just hitting up anybody for the collab. Everything was very intentional, just kind of like what you were doing. I really enjoyed hanging out with you at the OCB, and I liked your attitude. I just I'm insanely impressed that just you went such a long way as the only Quebec brewery to rock up to the Ontario conference and to show face, to meet people. And I just thought that was dope as fuck. I thought it was just such a smart move. So when I approached you for this and you were immediately down, I was like, that's amazing. I very much appreciated that. And then we sort of obviously we wanted to do some hazy IPA with you. That was what we sort of pitched. And we landed on a double IPA. I can't remember how that came about. Do you remember? Was that our idea? Was that your idea?
I think it did fit with what we were wanting to do. And we like to do the big stuff with collabs. I think it's all well suited. And since we're known for the hops, I thought it made a lot of sense to try to showcase that, especially with the lineup that you curated for your event. We wanted to show people, hey, we're here, we make great beer. Try this one.
I love it. I think it's amazing. We should definitely sip, though. Brother, cheers. Get that in you. Look at that murk. Look how murky that shit is. Fuck. So we landed on the double IPA with all New Zealand hops, obviously. We ran with Rawaka, Moteka, and New Zealand Cascade. And it's similar. Well, the body is very, now having Catnip side by side to it, I can see that consistency in this Noctem body, this like water profile that's just glorious. It's so silky and rounded, and it's just it's 8 or 8 points, eight exactly.
Great.
8, yeah. It's definitely very tropical. It's got a little bit of like grapefruit pith, kind of like dank citrus going on. I thought there's a little like almost like a touch of like, I think probably from the New Zealand Cascade, a little bit of like pine, just a little touch in there, a little bitterness. It's so smooth you wouldn't even know it's 8%. I think it came out brilliantly. I had multiple people. That's the fun thing about the event is that multiple people, like people kept saying, "Oh, this is my favorite." Like shouting out all the different beers, which I really love. Multiple people told me that this was their favorite, and particularly shout outs to Caitlin and Tim from town. They were there. She came up and she was like, "Yo, the Noctem is fucking amazing." I was like, "Well, the guys are here." Like I wanted to I tried to bump into you guys to see if I could introduce you.
You guys from town, you said?
Town Brewery, yeah, in Whitby.
Yeah, I went by when I was on my way through the OCB. So I met a couple of people there, and I think John reached out afterwards. And if I'm not mistaken, I spoke with someone there also. So we have something going out. Maybe we'll talk again. We don't know. Yeah.
That makes me very happy to hear, because I'd love to see that. The town folks are awesome, and the fact that already that people already the team already loving the beer. I think that's just like a very natural.
Cool to hear.
Yeah, very cool. So I think this beer came out amazing. So we agreed on that, and it was perfect because we timed our Montreal trip. We were trying to find a time to visit everything. So we went to Montreal for a week to visit breweries, and it was. The brew day was, I remember, April 29th. We timed it, so we got there the Monday. This was a bit silly on our part because we drove to Montreal on the Monday. We got there at 6 p.m. or something. Then we had to leave at 8 in the morning or whatever from Montreal to drive the 2.5 hours to Quebec City, and we came back and it was a crazy storm that same night. A little bit of a crazy move. Probably should have stayed over, but here we are. It was really fun to be in St. Malo again and to meet all the team and have ate together and got to sort of, well, I didn't do anything, but I was there for the brew day. There. We get some content. We're hanging out. We're chatting. It was really cool, man. It was great, and you guys are all so warm and hospitable. And I think it's it's a really cool facility you got going on there, and the team seemed just locked in. Everything's dialed. You guys know what's going on. It was impressive to see because we were there 5 years ago. It was the last time, so it was very cool to see it again, and more tanks in, and yeah, man, it was super fun for the brew day. And then you guys came down for the event, and I just want to shout it out. We did speak about this on episode 200, but you saved the day for the festival. With the brewski beer, we had a bit of an issue. The brewski beer, the original one, stalled out fermentation, so they weren't able to get it packaged in time because we were trying to go for a 10% smoothie sour, and it messed up. And I was like, oh fuck! People are excited. I didn't want if there's going to be beers that weren't going to make it, I was like, it can't be a Quebec beer. People were very excited for that, so. I was like, is there anything we could do? And Derek was like, I can make a quick 5% version for you. I'm like, amazing. So then they did it. And the event was on the Saturday. And I think on the Thursday, the courier was supposed to pick it up. And then I was speaking to Guillaume in the evening, and he said, oh, he went back to the brewery, and he goes, yeah, it's still here. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. So I didn't know what else to do. And
next day delivery is never next day delivery. I've never seen it work. It's always
it's very rarely works. It works with Purelator when I'm sending stuff to Nate, my co-host.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to
kind of freight. Different. Rarely seen it work. Yeah.
There you go. That was exactly my fear, because it was just like a big box, but it would have probably gone under some sort of a freight, right?
You're right. I don't know,
because they put the one-way keg in the box, and I was like, oh, I know Sir John was coming down. I was like, that's not too far. I was like, can you guys drop it at Sir John? They could take it. They're like, nah, I can't. Fuck. I'm like, well, the only other option, literally, if you didn't do this, it wouldn't have made it. Was you guys were driving from Quebec City to Toronto, and I mapped it out, and it went just around the city. So I was like, well,
kind of close by,
yeah, pretty just like Boucherville there. So I was like, okay, it's a quick jump over the bridge and back again, and hopefully by the time you would left Quebec City and get to Montreal, you would have finished all of the rush hour stuff, so you'd be able to quickly run in and do it. And this was messaging it I think I emailed you in the evening on Thursday evening, and then I woke
10
up to go.
PM or
Yes, it was last minute, bro. It was so last minute, and I remember I woke up to go to the bathroom at like 6 a.m. I was like, let me just check my messages, and because I didn't have Guillaume's number, so I asked him for it. He gave me the number, but he is 514 is Montreal, but he put 515, and I didn't even look because it was 6 a.m. and I couldn't even open my eyes. So whatever he sent me, I just went to JM. You were like, oh, let me see. I was like, okay, and sent you that. And then you're like, I went back to sleep, and you're like, he's not responding. Then I had Derek's text, so you managed to get in touch with Derek, and you were able to pick it up. But if you guys didn't do that, it would have been over, and it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but it would have been extremely, I don't know, if I say something's going to happen, I want that thing to happen, and particularly for the Quebec beers, I think it was just really important that the audience who would have come for that, I think would have been quite disappointed if one of them didn't make it for whatever reason. So
such a good brewery as Brewski, for sure.
Yeah, well, any of you guys in Quebec, all of you guys, we didn't ask not amazing breweries to do a beer with us.
That's right, that's fine.
But I know what you're saying. You guys are all exceptional. Like it would have been like pretty disappointing if that didn't work out. So I'm
it's our pleasure to make it work, but we like you said, kind of last minute, everything kind of fell into place. We were safe.
Yeah, we were safe. So I'm extremely grateful, and I know that like multiple people were telling me about that beer and how excited they were to try it and stuff. So I was like, okay, everything was worth it from the hassle that you went through. So I appreciate you guys very, very much.
Those kind of things happen just so frequently in beer. Here in the house, people don't see that on the market, but we're
scrambling to make things happen.
We're very often trying to time a lot of things together, and I totally understand the situation. And it was a pleasure to be able to fix this one.
It was glorious. It really meant a lot, man. I appreciate you immensely. Seriously, it's very cool. But it was really cool to have you guys at the event as well, and you guys were there both sessions, which was even doper because both sessions were very different as far as the vibe, the music, the lighting, the crowd were a different thing.
You're right.
Like the night session was definitely a party. The day session people were like really untapped or really focused on the beers, like making sure they get to try all the stuff. So it was very like, I mean, people were still doing that in the evening session, but it was a bit more of it was darker and a party. So it was cool. Tell us about you guys' experience at the event, and I hope you got to make some contacts and connect with people and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, of course. I think we took a lot out of it. What we like when we travel for festival, like I mentioned maybe at the beginning of the pod, is it's a good opportunity for travel because we get to taste so many beers from so many brewers. So at that particular event, there were 39 beers.
39 breweries, 40 beers, yeah.
So we tried most of them, I think, and it's the good point for the beer festival. It's always smaller samples, or we just ask for smaller samples. We don't care because we don't want to get hammered. We want to taste them all, or the ones that interest us most. So bringing this aspect with a lot of brewers being present, or a lot of industry folk just being present. So there's always something going on. You speak with people, you get a good vibe, you get good ideas, you share, then you try a beer, you like it or not, then you go to the next one. It's a lot jammed into a small trip, and that was exactly what it was at that particular event, because we were there only for the day, and the next day we were done. So those days it's a bit harder for us to be away from the brewery, especially when there are more than one partner out. So at that one there was me and Yam, so right there our time is kind of counted.
Yeah, that's I didn't think of it like that. The two partners being out of the brewery was a bit more of a hit. I mean, I guess it was the weekend, so it probably wasn't as bad.
Yeah, but the traveling started on
Friday.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you lost Friday, and then you go back Sunday, and it's exhausting
to be there on Monday. Yeah,
it gets started Monday morning. Get tired, and Yeah.
and you need to start it up. Yeah, it's and especially at this time of year is extremely busy in the spring, early summer. That's where I would say even more in the spring. The summer is set up is in the spring. If you miss your spring, you're done. In my opinion, we have no time to catch up after that. We're jammed. We have a lot of projects, and if we lose track of some things, then all the logistics go haywire. Then you start the summer. There are some vacations. Then you then you're done.
Then it's over.
So
When you
yeah.
say if you miss the spring, do you mean if you don't produce enough product, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's enough. It's the right product. It's the right projects. So there's a lot going on. Some things that need timing, some things that just need to be done at volume, and all of those things need to happen at once. And especially for us this year, we were completely capped in production since February, I think. We tried to get ahead of the season, but we couldn't quite. I think it caught up with us even so. So it's these years it's kind of hard to figure out, hard to project. The initiative that you take, like in our side, we brought a couple of reps on payroll. So right now there are 4 reps working for Noctem across the province. Those guys and gals, they worked since January to build up their space, and everything is kind of coming to fruition, but you cannot project the exact impact this will have on your summer season while you're still in the winter or still in the spring. You're kind of, it doesn't seem so much, but then it can jump, goes haywire a bit. It's hard to project those years. Since COVID, I think any data that you have is down to the trash, and you need to figure as you go, and very more short-term oriented. Past years mean nothing. It's hard to say.
Interesting. No, that makes complete sense, though. I know COVID was such an outlier with the projections as well, and everyone got excited for a bit when everyone was drinking so much, and then it would sort of fell flat, and now it's kind of like you just don't know how it's going to go.
That's the biggest trend, but in our view, there were smaller trends across the way. So you might have had a great fall, and then you're done for the spring, and then you have a great end of summer. There was like spikes across the seasons, unforeseen, which made it quite hard to plan.
Gotcha. Right. And
that's a fun.
Yeah. And there's not much you could really do. It is what it is. You just got to guess.
Yeah. Always be ready, I guess.
Yeah. Just always be ready. It's super interesting, but it was great then. Hopefully then the timing for this was pretty good, because we were able to slide this in before things got kind of crazy. And I imagine you probably had space in the production schedule for a double IPA or something like that. You might have.
Yeah, it fit quite well.
I know a lot of brews, which is perfect. But no, this is great. Now, if people want to get this beer, this podcast is only coming out a week after. We're doing this at the end of June. When is this beer still available through distro and from the brewery currently?
No, we're sold out here. So I
that's
think
awesome.
There should be still kind of a lot, maybe
in distro,
maybe at least half people retailers that bought it might still have it. But those kind of beers kind of move quickly on the retail shelf space too. So if you see it, a cat screaming at a mic, you should grab it right now, I think.
Definitely grab that with the nice orange label. Definitely grab this if you, grab anything from Noctem if you see it, but particularly this one if you see it. So that is awesome. Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed. I know that, the breweries that we worked with, I didn't imagine a lot of the beers of this style would last too long. I think it came out. This must have come out like the week of the event, right?
Like a week before, maybe. We were not too tight, but kind of.
But just
comfortable cowboy.
Yeah, that's just let me see what the date is. It was packaged. Oh, May 15th. Okay, so it might have come out like a week after. I see what you're saying. Yeah, because the event was May 31st. So Yeah, which is great. So no, that's really good. I'm glad to hear your experience at the event. It was great. I hope it was worth coming down for you guys as well. It was cool to see. I think you guys and Sir John, I don't know. Oh, and Simon from L'espace came down.
Yeah.
I think that might have been it from Quebec, but it was cool. At least there was 3 breweries represented for Quebec, and people were able to say hi. And you guys were all branded up, so I imagine that people would have known it to you guys to say hi if they wanted to. But yeah, man, that was fucking awesome. So this beer, incredible and very, very much appreciated. I think it's spectacular. So where were we in the story? We were talking about Samalo opening. So did you already have like a bunch of, I guess, because you started producing catnip out of Oshlag, so by the time you opened up your own space to be able to start producing it yourself, you would have in that time got a lot of what do you call them, clients, I guess, resale stores, licensees for kegs and all that type of stuff. So were you all set up for that for all your other beers because of the work you did with catnip, or was there a lot of work to do after that?
It helped a lot for sure. It was crazy times for us at that moment. We were smaller. Like you mentioned before, there are new tanks. We did that in phases, but at that point, we canned like one or two beers a week, which are 3,000 liters, 30 barrels batches. And at that moment, the retailers, there was a kind of a high demand for our products, because even the Oshlag brewed catnip was having a good momentum on the market. So they were interested. They had it before. They knew what to expect. And coming out of our facility, I have to say it was kind of better. So
it's always the way.
It worked out pretty well, and soon enough, since, like you said, there weren't so many of those kind of beers available to retailers, they kind of jumped on it. And for a few years, demand was very high, and we couldn't produce anymore. And we had to kind of digest our project. We couldn't be buying more fermenters right off the bat. We couldn't. We needed to get our feet a bit more stable before thinking about any expansion phases. We had a lot to learn, so we took a bit of time there, but all that brought some scarcity to our product. It wasn't meant so. It was kind of just the way it was, and timing was great for us. We went with the facility at I think, one of the best timing we could have picked, which we did not pick. It was just
it just happened.
Yeah, so it was great. It helped us a lot. Retailers were coming to the facility, taking their order. We were pulling the volume from our distributor partner at that point to our facility for pickup. So at some point, we didn't even distribute through our distributor. So we just cut it off, and we ran on ourselves for a little bit. Then we started off distributing a bit more when we could afford and bring some other fermenters in and pick up a bit on production. So yes, those few years were really great because of that. It helped us a lot, get us stable. Then we kind of, I like to say, we took a step. There are a lot of moments like that, I think, in the life of a business, but in a brewery more specifically, when you just, growth is not a smooth scaling up kind of thing. It's more of a ladder or stairs. So you have to move up a chunk at a time. So at that point, we moved a chunk. We went more distributing with a bigger volume, and then some other breweries caught up also. So we made our products more available a couple of years down the road. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I mean, that's probably good anyway, because it lets you sort of adjust to each level. rather than just consistently keep climbing. You're never able to kind of catch up, as you were talking about before.
It doesn't work like that in my experience. You kind of just, you buy new equipment, you hire more people, then you level up, and then that's the new basis of operation. We do things a bit differently. It's the new kind of way. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to have to be aware of all of that, but it's some periods of adjustment that I think everybody needs.
Right. That makes complete sense. So now I guess the breweries, so 10 years for the brew pub, and I guess 7 years for the production facility, which is dope. That's pretty sick. So then has between, like, from, I know we're talking about all that growth, like, has maybe speak to some of the stuff, like, what has anything much changed over the last 5 to 7 years type of thing? Like, have you seen, like, what's been different for you guys? Have you done even more expansions? Are you sort of like now, are you hitting different markets in Quebec, like different regions that you weren't before, now that you're able to have this sort of volume, or is it just flying out the door to the same sort of retails or the same areas? Like, what's that all looking like?
Tons of things are going on a bit differently. There were a couple of those steps. The biggest one we took before COVID. So 2020, we kind of had a bunch of vessels coming in. We ramped up production just April of 2020, and we had a hard time finding plumbers to just plug the tanks, because we need to brew those beers, because we felt like demand was ramping up and we needed to brew. You just needed the space to do it. So yeah, this was a kind of a bigger expansion that happened in spring of 2020. Then afterwards, we were more into the logistics, production schedule, all the more smaller efficiencies that helps you to ramp up. So we worked on that for a while. And now we're just trying to get back to some other expansion projects, not too big of a scale, but we have some things in mind that we would like to see happen. But as you know, the industry is not like it was. It's harder to foresee. We don't like to take as much risk. We try to limit it as much as possible. And everything is kind of changed, the whole environment. So at first, when we did the facility, the financing project, the price of equipment, everything was way different. So right now you need to kind of be very thoughtful, very careful about what you do, because if we're here to stay, there's a lot of risk in expansions and in those kind of transformation phases. So we're trying to be careful about it. But yeah, I'd like to see a bit more capacity. And the big dream is a twice as big brew house. Right now we double brew everything on a 15-barrel brew house. All of our fermenters are 30 barrels, so it's a double batch everything. Right. Having a 30-barrel brew house would be great for us. It would allow us to never brew on evenings. And also, it will allow us to catch up when there are problems or holidays or stuff like that makes us lag a bit behind on production. And then right now, we never can catch up. If we have holidays, it's opportunity missed that we can never take back. So I'd love to have more flexibility on that aspect, but it's a big chunk, new brew house. So if there's anybody listening with a 30-barrel brew house, very well maintained, then they can reach out. We're here.
That's really entrepreneurial. I love that. No one's ever done that before. That's gangster. I see what you're saying. I mean, then if you really wanted to, you could do 2 turns of the 30 per day and fill up 2 fermenters if you really were getting crazy.
So that's the thing with a new system, it would kind of work for a long time and bring that catching up opportunity thing would be a big plus in my opinion.
That would help.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have space for more fermenters, or are you tapped out at the current facility?
there's space. We're lucky that we have enough space. We just have to reallocate some things, rethink a bit of the space. But yeah, there's square foot available here. We're lucky. We're in 15,000 square foot facility. We have a lot of room for storage. At first, as people might have noticed, we were used to print every label directly on the can, which might not be so obvious, but it takes a lot of storage space because all of those empty cans and all the different labels kind of needs a footprint. At some point, I think there was like 75 pallets here hanging around with the empty cans waiting to get filled.
75.
But
fuck, and they're not small. They're
no,
not small.
No, it's taking a lot of room, so we needed to at some point we went back to labels, and that shrinked a lot of our inventory, so that was great to get more room.
Yeah, so just to
now
show
it's
the
available.
difference.
That's my point. Sorry. Yeah.
That got some point. No, totally. And just to show the difference, so Catnip, this is fully printed, and then we got Moggie here, which is a sticker label here.
So they're all blanks. So all we need is blanks.
Right, which is a little easier for that. So you move back to stickers for Catnip?
And everything but Catnip. Catnip is a great SKU for us, a great beer, because it's so much volume that we can order from the truckload. So it avails us the opportunity to order directly from the can manufacturer.
Sick.
So it's just a cent more pricier to have it printed instead of having it blank. So when you compare to a label, it's 15, 16 cents a label in our kind of volume. So it's a big economy to have it printed. That's why we stick with the printed label for Catnip.
That makes sense. It looks great though. I mean, look, both are cool. To be honest, looking at both of them, but I see
be brighter. That's something that we thought about at some point, because the Catnip label is printed on a different technology, so it's a bit less maybe bright than what you can achieve on a sticker.
Gotcha.
But then the trade-off is too much. We're really happy that we can have it printed because of the economy it brings.
Right. No, that's dope. You know, we had them on. We didn't have them on the pod, but we did a little video with them a few years back. That company called Heartprint. They're from Montreal. Yeah. So they were doing the digital printing.
That's where we were buying beforehand.
Okay. Is that digital print doesn't go brighter?
It does, but it's way pricier.
There we go. That's what I was trying to find out. Okay.
At our scale, digital printing is a bit pricier than having blanks with labels.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing is, when we rely on one sole supplier, like Heartprint is the only one with this technology right now operating in Quebec on those can size.
Oh, okay, 473s.
We had some experience with them moving around with lead times, and we can project a lot of things, but when lead time changes, it means that all the schedule goes to trash. So when that happens in the spring, you get burnt, and you don't like it so much. So maybe next time you try to avoid that and limit your risk. So yeah, we changed a bit before that because of that, and also because of the economy it brought. Flexibility, space, all gains, in our opinion, at our size. It's specific to our situation.
That's actually really fascinating to hear. Thank you for being transparent about that. I like that. I think that's like, it comes back. This to me, the way you just said that, it like plays to what you said. You like to work, when you worked as the actuary, you were like to solve puzzles. To me, that sounds like a pretty serious puzzle to solve. So it probably scratches that itch for you, because you're like, all right, well, these guys can do this a little bit more pricey, but they can fuck up with the lead time. And then these guys could do this. Maybe it's not printed, not as bright, but and you've got all these different allocations, because like the downsides are up, and you just sort of like, I like that. I like That's what, does that sound, is that right? Is that an accurate take that, yeah?
I find that puzzles, being a brewer or owning a brewery, are kind of more complex, even though that the ones that I got to solve in my career as an actuary, because there's the people thing, there's the relationships, there's the perception of consumer, a lot of things that can't be quite quantified, but you have to figure it all out. And sometimes you just test your way in, you think something works, then you do more of it, because you can't quite just think and figure it out. You'll never know. You need to try something.
I like it, man. I like the way you're thinking with it all, and I like the way you explain that a lot. I know, because I have a business, and I just respect entrepreneurialism a lot, and I think that what you guys all do, you guys meaning brewery owners, is fucking an intense job, and I think it's so cool to hear. I like hearing it in that like context. The talking about it in this like puzzle format, because I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't know why, for some reason that's appealing. I like sense. That. It makes sense, but it's also like, it's kind of like a fun problem to solve, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a lot of implications on it, and you really want to get it right. Once you land on it, you're like, all right, you just have to like logically break it down, or like put on a whiteboard or something and be like, all right, well, if we do this, that's the potential downsides, that's the upside, pros and cons and stuff. It's I love it. Maybe that's something we could get into, because we're going to do a business of beer pod, and we're gonna, that could be even something as well, like all that like logistics side of things.
I think there's a lot to speak about. It will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. We need to, I told JM, I was like, dude, I want to do the Noctem one first, and then we'll do a business of beer one this summer. So in the next couple months, we'll do another one as well. But I don't know, just want to say that now, because I thought that was like a really cool side thing that we could definitely touch on. That's really fun.
Yeah, sure. And then we need to crack the next beer, maybe, so we get
look at this.
Get back on track.
You are indeed. See, you're the co-host tonight. I'm loving it. All right, Moggie, amazing. I'm loving it. Such a great beer. But yes, I guess we have.
I just have to say about Moggie, because you shared a bit of tasting notes, but I didn't. I find the silkiness of the New Zealand hops it's always something beautiful, and it's well showcased here. And I get some peach aromas and maybe pineapple too. Yes. It's a cool tropical, smooth, no harshness whatsoever in that beer. So it's really beautiful collab, I think. And we are not used to do New Zealand prominent IPAs without Nelson Sauvin. We're kind of always falling back on it. And it was great using Riwaka, Motueka, and Cascade on this one. So we kind of made something entirely different than what we're used to. And I think the Riwaka really kind of held it together. It's good.
Big time. And that lime from the Motueka comes through as well, which is beautiful. I didn't know that, by the way. I don't think we had that discussion, because you gave me a list of hops to choose from. Yep. And we chose, because obviously I threw Peacherine at you, because that was my favorite hop.
We know you love it, but we don't have it.
No, exactly. Well, most people didn't have it because it's fucking hard to get. But so I was like, well, the good thing about that, though, is that there's a lot of other incredible New Zealand hops that we can select from, right? And this was such a fun combo. And you're right, like the Riwaka really holds it down there. But the Motueka shines through in that background with a little bit of the lime in there. It's like it's such
beautiful brightness.
It really is. And it's like the thing I love as well about double IPAs. I don't know about you, man, but I like my haze relatively fresh. The thing with double IPAs, this is now 5 weeks old, and tastes like 2. And I think that's the beautiful thing about double IPAs, that they last so much longer than single IPAs. I prefer drinking single IPAs because I can drink more of them without getting too drunk. But the double IPAs is the richness and the fact that they last so much longer, which is, well, not that it matters for this beer because it's mostly gone anyway. Though we are pouring it tomorrow night at Durand, which is too late for anybody listening to this.
Take a trip from Quebec.
Take a trip from Quebec, because it'll be already over. But
it'll be in the
secured.
past.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm excited for people in Hamilton to be able to try it as well, live from the bar and take some to go as well, which is very exciting. So it's continuing to live on out here as well, which is normally we're in this intro. Actually, this is something we can get into shortly. The interprovincial stuff that is about to potentially happen. So next beers, we have a bunch of. Which direction do you feel in? What are you feeling right now?
We could have a palette reset, maybe with the Calaca Yuzu would work. I think that's a reset.
That is a serious reset. Where is he? No, this one. No. Yes, here we go. So I couldn't even tell you the last time I had a Gose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
This one's a great one.
Yeah, I mean, I was. Whoops, here we go.
I have lots of story for this one, so that's well suited.
Amazing. And also, this is actually, you know what I just realized? This is one of the first beers I think I've seen from you that is the illustration of the cat as opposed to the photo.
Exactly. So the actual Calaca, which is with lemon usually. So this one is derived beer with yuzu.
So what's rye? What'd you say, sir? It's a.
So you've tasted before the Calaca, which is usually made from lemon, but this one is a derived one from yuzu. So I'm sure you didn't have it. We made it once in the past, so maybe, but I'm quite sure you never had it.
I don't think so. Let me double check here. Calaca. I know we tried a bunch. Okay, I have had it. You're right. I've had Calaca. When did I have that? No. I had it in 2020. So I had the OG in 2020. So I thought I would because it sounded very, and the yuzu. I have not had the yuzu. So this, it's 3.5%. This is a great refresh.
Yeah.
Okay. So a Gose with yuzu. Yeah, man. Tell me more about this particular version.
So usually the Calaca is made from candied lemon, and we candied the lemon in the salt under a sous vide.
No shit.
And hiding from the light in the fridge for a couple of weeks, and then we blend everything together and jump that into the fermenter. So that's awesome. How we usually treat our lemons. And in this particular case, the yuzu is kind of harder to get, but it's a flavor that I like very much. So I tried to source fresh yuzus to make a beer. So I got a Japanese importer that usually imports fish for sushis to get the actual yuzus when they are in season in Japan. To have the right amount, which I never knew how many we would need. We kind of dabbled with that. Took a couple of guesses, and the first time we've brewed this one, treating the yuzus the same way that we treat the lemon, with salt, candied, sous vide, which brings out the oils from the zest out, and it helps have a bright, beautiful flavor. We do that also with limes when we do El Gato Lim, for people that know that beer.
Oh, I love that.
Getting back on track on this, the yuzu was just, we didn't order as many as we should have because you don't know, so you guess. And then we brought out more zest and yuzu juice, which were readily available. So we brought that all into the fermenter. And we got, I think, a bright, beautiful, refreshing flavor of yuzu, which is kind of different from the other brewers that use yuzu puree, because on the market in Quebec, I'm only aware of one provider of puree, and it tastes just a bit cooked, in my opinion, cooked yuzu. And we were trying to avoid that, but the beers made from it are quite good, but I was trying just something a bit different. I wanted the brightness. So we worked it our way, and I think we kind of achieved that on this one. So it's a beautiful beer, very refreshing, 3.5%. It's the perfect pool beer, in my opinion.
Oh, and the nose is crazy. And the head is bonkers. It's just straight meringue. Cheers, man.
Cheers. Oh, it's a beautiful
Oh, yeah.
beer.
Oh, that's money. Wow.
That's where we put the salt in the candied phase. We don't put more salt for the gose later on the process.
Okay, so when you say the lemons are like candied, sous vide, is that what you're saying? So they're put in bags over salt. So lemons covered in salt in bags in water, in hot water.
No, just lemons covered in salt, sous vide,
not
in the fridge for a couple of weeks. It's just
so not in water, not in bags. They just get directly in the water.
They're not cooked.
Oh, I see. Because then it wouldn't be hot, so it's in the fridge. So it's like sous vide, but not cooked.
Exactly.
I haven't heard of it. Okay, this is
fascinating. It's not cooked sous vide. It's only kind of macerated over salt sous vide in the fridge.
Okay, so that's macerated. I'm just going to write this down. This is amazing. So they're fresh from Japan.
Yeah.
Macerated,
just cut in half, poured over salt, and jumped sous vide, and the oils kind of extract itself from reverse osmosis, I guess, the pressure that the salt makes on everything liquid. It kind of all settles down in a couple of weeks, and then we blend everything, extract the most flavor as we can.
And why do you use that method rather than just throwing it in the fermenter?
We find the brightness, the trueness of the flavor is brought more to life that way than just pitching the actual fruit in the fermenter, blended or unblended.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
And it's a cool way to bring in the salt, we find. So we don't just pour salt, it's all into the process in this way. I think it's a cool way to make our gose.
Yeah. This is like, there is no way I would be able to taste this blind and say it's 3.5%. This is 5 minimum. This, like, the way that it's tasting. The body is so creamy. The nose is so, like, when you were saying candied lemon, that's what I was like, yes, that's exactly what this is. This is so candied. Even though, is it considered candied? It's salted lemon, but it's
in French we use the same word for both salted or with
sugar.
With sugar. So I thought it was the same in English, but
what's the word in French?
Confit.
Confit. Oh, like duck.
Confit.
Oh,
like confiture.
Yeah. Like jam. Yeah. And like duck confit. I never knew that meant like.
And I think this is over fat. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a culinary expert in English.
Yeah. Well, either way, dude, this is fan-fucking-tastic. This is so good. Everything about it. It's so bright, but it's so light. It's not filling. It's got a bigger body with a lighter ABV, so you feel like you're getting a full experience. You don't feel like you're getting some sort of like less flavorful light beer. There's so much flavor in this, like, and it's the brightness though of that. I think the process, that confit lemon is except sorry, I don't want to say lemon because that's disrespecting. It's yuzu. It's very different.
In this particular one, it's yuzu, but you're right. It's the same thing for the actual Calaca. And we do a version Calaca lime and goyave.
Guava for people who don't
Guava.
know.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I'm here to translate, bro. I mean, being back in Quebec, I felt like I got back on my French game. I forgot stuff, because you're not there all the time, remembering words and stuff. Yeah, this is like, it's just like what's hitting me here is how bright is probably the biggest word I would use to describe this. It's just so like, it's like punchy. Like the nose is it's so nice.
And we're not known for being too subtle, I think.
No, you guys go pretty hard with your flavors. You guys lack flavor.
We try to,
and not shy about it. Yeah, this is a great palate refresh, because sometimes I'm always like, when I drink, I'm always like, start with a lager and then maybe have a dark lager or something, and then single IPAs and then doubles and like you kind of go on a thing. And a West Coast in the middle, West Coast is usually my palate refresher. This is like, it's fun to not do this my normal way. I like this. This is like, excuse me, it doesn't happen very often.
I was thinking about it before we started on the order of the beers, and I was kind of just always changing my mind because a lot of ways work. It's all gonna taste good, and what's a palate cleanser? It's something different. So in this situation, we used acidity and salt, lower ABV, to completely reset from the IPAs.
Yeah,
which will bring us to the other IPAs, I think, fresh. And then there's a lager to put between everything. So lots of ways work, and I like to scramble it a bit.
I think you did it the right way, bro. I think it's like I like that a lot. Like it's once again like you kind of get stuck in your ways a little bit about how the order you drink stuff in. I think it was also really cool that we had we started with the flagship, then we went straight into our collab and really got into that story, and now we're able to sort of play with it a bit. And I appreciate that. I think it's like a really smart like I'm just looking at Untapped right now. Someone else, like the main, when you're saying the little descriptors, someone had put like aromatic was one. That's the main thing. Like aromatic is really like, it's just so, it's so good. This is so good. And it makes me, and it makes me real. Why aren't I drinking Goses more? Like, yeah, I don't know why. It's just like, I feel like I drank a lot more of them in Quebec. I wonder if, you know what I'm thinking? I don't know if they make that many out here. I feel like they're much more prevalent in Quebec. That's what
maybe there was a big phase. It was fun because a couple of years back there was kind of the years of Berliner Weisses, the years of there was kind of a team, Brett IPAs, and then there's something else.
Yeah,
but we don't have that so much nowadays. But maybe that's why, because at some point everybody were doing it. People caught up the techniques, and then they just bring them to life once in a while. So it's more in everybody's portfolio, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Berliners were everywhere for a while there. And all I was thinking, as you were saying it, my only prediction or thought there was that Berliners turned into the base for a smoothie sour. And then everything's kind of become smoothies, which I'm not mad at. I personally am a huge fan of smoothie sours, but
maybe you're right. But I think the vibe went through the US before it was kind of the smoothie side for sure was inspired from the US, and Berliner Weisses. I'm not so sure because I was less in the game in those years. Was it a true import from Germany at that point to Quebec, or did it travel through the States? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but then why would we have seen? So I probably did. I think you're right. And then I guess really the question is like, where did the Gose go? As far as like,
yeah,
what I'm saying? Because go.
I understand. I think the market has its ways in some manner. I think to it filters out a couple of things, and breweries get ideas in their minds. And one of the things was, I believe, in the past few years, lower ABVs cannot fetch higher prices. And as craft breweries, sometimes you have to think about that because you're not quite cost effective. So in the big scale kind of idea. So making this Berliner Weiss is pricier for us than many other beers because of the process, because it takes a couple of days. We have to sour work that on the system. We lose a brew day. We have to figure these things out. And even though it's 3.5, it doesn't mean it's less expensive to brew. So we need to fetch a good price on that. And maybe people were like, hey, I don't feel the consumer wants to pay that price for that kind of lower ABV beers. And our idea is this is something on its own. It's something that people can love very much, and maybe they are not afraid of paying the price required to get it. and we're not here to judge. So let's try. So that's how we work. Let's try it. If people like it, they buy it, then that's fine. Then we repeat. If they don't, then we're done. And we try always to bring beer that we love to life. But when the consumer doesn't love them back, there's no market for them. So we have to figure every aspect of that. And I think maybe the lower ABV Berliner Weiss went down in the offer side of things because of that, because the perception of the brewers that the consumer will perceive, it's kind of a double loop.
Yeah, no, that makes so much. That's really interesting to hear you say all of that. Like, I feel
value
felt like
there.
yeah, and maybe people don't see the value as much because they associate value with higher ABV.
But in
Which
our
isn't always
perception, value is seen from the people because this is one of our highest earning SKUs, and we have it all year long. And there's only 4 beer that we carry all year right now, and we're working on making maybe 2 others to that. But we only carry Catnip, Hop Rush, Old School, and Calaca Lemon.
Oh,
right
okay.
Now.
Okay, interesting.
All year round.
Right.
So you can see that it moves fast and it keeps moving even though we're in winter. And brewers are not so keen of brewing Gose with lemons on the winter. So maybe that helps us. So please, don't everybody do lemon Gose year round
in the middle of
so
winter.
we can keep up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. How do they sell in the winter?
These are very fine. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like it's a German style, right? So it means it's being brewed in a country with similar-ish weather to Canada. Germany is cold in the winter, so I mean, it adds up that it can. But it's not. I feel like the yuzu makes this feel like a pool beach.
This one is especially for summer for sure. But you're right. Lemon does quite the same thing. Even
it's not too dissimilar, right?
No, it's very similar. But I love the kind of pungent aroma of the yuzu. That's why I make it. I really need to try to make it better every year. This one, only one batch a year.
Right, right. So you got to be appreciative when you see the yuzu. You buy that shit because you only get that once a year. This is disappearing. Yeah. This is like I'm nearly done. Yeah. This is so good, man. I feel like this is a really good choice. One, because of great timing, because if this is the one time a year that you make the beer, but also like, fuck, man, to get people like thinking about this style again. Once again, I don't know if it's an Ontario thing as opposed to a Quebec thing, and it's just if breweries don't make it, then you don't drink it. Is really what it is, right? And I just really felt like in Quebec, and I don't know if it was coincidence, if it was, I'm thinking of 5 to 7 years ago when there were more Goses around. Like, okay, would you say that the market, like, is there a lot of Goses on the market right now? Is there like, does every brewery have a Gose currently? I
don't think so. No. There's more, like you said, fruited sours, fruit pastry sours, smoothies. It's farther on the mind of people, I think, Gose right now.
So.
But the ABV is well suited with the times because people are seeking out sometimes lower ABVs. People talk a lot about NA, people drinking less. I'm not sure it's quite the thing. I think there's a market for lower ABV beers, full-bodied, full-flavored, for sure. And I think I'm quite the demographic for that, so I understand the idea very well. When you need to drive afterwards, when you have kids getting up in the morning, you need to be very much aware of the ABV that you take.
I've heard that a lot with people with kids. Yeah, my friends.
And you're fine with paying the price if the flavor is there.
100%, bro. Exactly. And this is, once again, if you drank this blind, you would never know that it's so low. I always felt as well that Quebec was so far ahead of the game with either non-alc and low ABV. I remember doing a podcast in 2018. There's a store called Bierolog in Montreal in Hochelaga.
Yeah.
And we did a pod there and we had 4 beers. This is back when we used to do it in person. And we did all 4 beers, the highest ABV was 5%, and everything else it just went down. Like I think like 3 or something. There was a 2, there was a 1, there was a non-alc.
Okay.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? What are you doing? Why are we doing this? Like at the time, I remember being so confused with these styles, and I didn't like.
We were ahead of the time, yeah, for sure.
So far, I feel like Quebec specifically, though, and I feel like the brewery that was the first time that I was exposed to it like altogether, and I felt like I saw it more and more with different breweries in Quebec making these lower ABV beers because they're selling and people are wanting them. And I didn't understand non-alcs until maybe 2020. I think they might have shut down, unfortunately, now, but Libra in Prince Edward Island, through Upstreet, they sent us some beer, and I was like, oh, this is really good. Now I understood non-alc beer, and I drink non-alc beer all the time now. And I understand the lower ABV, and it started to happen here a bit more. But Quebec was so far, like this is 2018, and I bet that it had been around longer, and that was just when I saw it. So in the better part of the last decade, Quebec had been really ahead of the game with the low ABV stuff. So it shows that there's a market for it there, that people are excited for it, and obviously they don't think it tastes like well, it doesn't taste like anything. The flavor is there. This is I don't know if anyone would drink this and guess that it's 3.5%. It's spectacular.
I don't think so. But like you mentioned, I think maybe there was a kind of big trend at first, trying lower BVs, trying non-alc and all of that. And all the narrative was so much, people don't want to drink. People want to be aware. It's all about fitness. It's all about anything. It's the younger generation. Everything fits. It's the biggest narrative. It's like, oh, it's non-alc. Craft beer is dead. No, sorry, I don't want to go there. But the narrative was quite intense over all of that for a while. But my perception of all of that is it's not people are all migrating to lower ABVs. It's kind of not polarizing, but kind of you also have lots of people trying bigger beer at the time, but nobody speaks about that. But we see that in our sales, or maybe brewers don't want to brew them anymore, or they do less of them, so that brings us a bigger share. But what we see from our consumer is both lower ABV and higher ABVs. So why? I don't know. Maybe people just go from one to the other depending on the occasion. They kind of pick what's right for themselves, but we see both. So triple IPAs are more of a thing right now than they were, and we'll jump to that maybe later on.
Oh, we will. That's what I mean. This is a big pod tonight. We got a lot of big beers. Yeah, that's an interesting thing as well. So it's like I imagine that. Do you think those audiences cross over? Do you think the same person who wants a 2% sour wants a 10% IPA?
I know I do. I don't know about others. It's hard to say.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
it's really hard to say. I think when you get to know craft beer, you get to see the diversity and all the possibilities, and then you pick and choose depending on the occasion. When you're alone, when you're at home, maybe this is the one. When you're with people, when the session is longer, maybe you juggle with those three, or then you get a lot of possibilities. I think so. I think the consumer might be the same.
You know what? I think you're right. I always notice that the people who want the higher ABV stuff, like we've had, I say Third Moon on the pod, and they do a quad IPA or a quintuple IPA that are like 11, 12, whatever, 13%. And their audience, they told us that their audience gets mad if it's in a smaller format. Like they only want it in the 473. They don't want it in the Red Bull can that's small, or the shorties. They want them in the tall can. I'm like, okay, they're if you're into big ABV beers, they want a lot of it. And I imagine I think I always found that to be super interesting, because I'm like,
it is.
I don't know, maybe
it
I just
might be their particular consumers, or maybe it's the occasion that those people are used to, that they don't want to change. They love the format, they love the ABV. It's a choice they've already taken, and they don't want you to change their habits in a way. because they could just have two if that's the point. So
If that's all they're drinking, then that makes sense. I'm not even like the other night. What is it? Thursday. A couple of nights ago, I was out and I wasn't really going to drink, and I don't have many opportunities to drink a triple IPA in full because I usually would have a bunch. And I was out. We went to a concert, and I only had a couple of beers, like light. And I was like, it's kind of late. I got time for like one beer. I'm like, I can have a big one. So I had a triple IPA, which I never really get to drink. I was like, this is really nice. Mm-hmm. It's nice to enjoy it at a time, but there's not a lot of more times I'm going to have, I don't know, 4 to 6 beers probably in a session over a whole night, like kind of a 6 to 8 hours or something, as opposed to just 1 or 2. But last night I have the big stouts. When I have the big stouts, that's when I have much. Like I have 2 beers, but they're very high. So I guess it's sort of all the drinkers are different, and I find it super interesting because you got the people who want the higher and then the low, and it's sort of like, I guess that's the beauty of it all, though, because like you said, you like them both. I'm realizing it. I do like them both, but I would probably be more inclined to drink a lower than a higher more often. But that market is definitely there, and the people who love the big beers, they love their big beers. God damn it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of consumers. There's a lot of opportunity. Craft beer is diverse. Brewers do their thing in any way. So there's a big ecosystem right there. So I think there's someone for any beer, and we at some point we need to try and see what sticks and what people like.
Yeah. No, and it's cool. I also think it's very dope that in this one pod we're going to go from a 3.5% Gose to a 10% triple at some point. And as well, we got a couple doubles and a single and a lot. It's like it's cool. I like that your selection as well, the curation for tonight as well, has really showcased sort of like a really great range of what Noctem does, as far as like across the spectrum. And is the regular Calaca also 3.5?
Yeah.
Okay, sick. And look, from what I saw on Untappd, there's actually like a number of different versions of Calaca in general. Like there's
I think we've done 4 over the years. Yeah.
Oh, 4. Okay, I see. So there's the regular, the lime guava, the strawberry melon, and the zero. So a non-alc.
Oh yeah, you're right. Zero we've not done in a couple of months. It was replaced by Rayon Rouge, which is non-alc with raspberry, ginger, and lemon. So it's a very refreshing non-alc that's caught up our consumer, and people love it so much that we had to kind of dial back a bit on Calaca Zero, since non-alc are a whole other kind of project.
Beast. Yeah.
It's a lot of logistics for us. We need to pasteurize those beers, and they have to be brought back to us because we don't have the facility here, the equipment here to do it on site. And everything is very costly and time consuming. So we kind of had to pick one over the summer. So it was kind of dialed back a bit. So yeah, it's a segue, but Calaca Zero was a great hit for us. But Rayon Rouge is even a better non-alc in my opinion.
Is that a non-alc beer, or it's like a seltzer or something?
It's a non-alc, yeah.
Non-alc beer, okay. Do you still have to pasteurize it or not really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so same logistical things.
Exactly. That's why one just took the spot of the other. For a couple of months.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know those pasteurizers are extremely expensive. I've seen like Collective. Did you see the one at Collective?
Yeah.
Dude, it is stuff. Fucking massive.
It is.
Jesus. It was so crazy. And I was at Royal City recently because we did a collab with them in Guelph, and they have one, but it's like, it's not small, but it's like significantly smaller than the Collective one. And that does, like, a lot of people go to them. Maybe if they got smaller batches, when you go to Collective, you probably you're pumping a lot through that.
Exactly.
And it takes
and I've heard they've done a lot of contracts too, and it's usually the case for people that has that kind of equipment to host and contract brew other stuff. So right here in Quebec, the same thing at the moment. Yeah.
Right. So there's probably one brewery with that. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, do you? How do you feel about a bathroom break? I don't know why, but I feel like
Yeah,
I gotta.
makes sense.
Yeah, take a bathroom break, and then we'll jump into the next one. We'll
Great.
be back. We are back, and we
Yeah.
are ready for that next one. What are we doing? What are we doing, JM? What are we doing here?
We jump from the Calaca 3.5 to the Triple IPA. Does it make sense?
It makes
Yeah.
complete sense. What else would we do?
It does make sense. You'll see.
It makes complete sense.
It all
Triple
falls into
IPA.
place.
Right? Look at this. That is a
Yeah.
happy cat. That is a cat
This
who just
is
had
a cool label. It is.
Look at that hat on the cat.
So for
if
people
you
not seeing,
yeah,
how would
explain
you
it.
describe that? I'll go ahead. So
Okay.
this is kind of a cute, I'd say
a tabby.
youngish kitty, and wide-eyed, smiling at you, showing a bit of teeth, and with a kind of a wizardy hat with an alien on it, on a weird
Yeah.
collage style background with spaceship, aliens, planets, and that's the vibe of a triple IPA, I think.
I think you nailed that. That was perfection. The only thing I would add is that the wizard's hat is pink. Which is I don't know why. That's just funny. And the cat is very excited to be there because that cat just had a 10% triple IPA. And this is called Hops Forward. And this is part of the YCH program, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. I just need to have a shout out to Adrian, which is our graphic designer, for coming up with that particular label. We had a kind of a vibe, an aesthetic that we've done a few times, but the idea of the aliens and everything, it's only her, and I found it very, very beautiful.
I love it. No, she's fantastic. It's all the labels. She does all the labels.
Yeah, we've had a couple of graphic designers over the years, but at first we had one span a couple of beers. Then my brother has done a bunch of them with us over the years. Then Adrian is our main graphic designer in-house, part-time, but helping us a lot for the past, I think, 2 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And this particular beer, so it's called Hops Forward.
Oh yeah.
And the FWD. And do you want to explain it? Because I've heard of this before, and I definitely saw some breweries here in Ontario do this, but I don't really recall the specific details of what it is. I think it's a specific new hop product from Yakima Chief. Is that right? Yeah.
It is. I'll just taste it, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, please. While I get these photos. And it's it's
a beautiful beer.
So I'm looking at the description here. So it's the YCH 803 Citra.
Yeah. So the FWD program from YCH is a kind of R&D program that they do with a bunch of breweries. What I've heard is there are 2 of us in Quebec province this year, us and Messeram, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a lot of fun because they kind of showcase, they give you a choice, sometimes 2 products, sometimes more possibilities, and you pick what you think would be best suited for your brewery or the test that you have in mind. You test the product, you answer a bunch of questions, and you give them feedback, you try it on the market. So it's kind of a big R&D program. It's
for new hop products?
Yeah, exactly. In this particular case, 803 is kind of a dialed up version of Hyper Boost, which is a flowable, usable on the cold side of brewing, usually dry ups and stuff like that. So this one was particularly recommended at the beginning of fermentation, which is where we put it. We usually put our Hyper Boost later on with the dry ups when fermentation is always almost done. But this was at the very beginning of fermentation, which was a bit recommended on this new product that's a bit lesser known. Right now doesn't have any commercial name, but we got to test it with, and it's true to type, true to variety. So the Citra one will bring out Citra aromas, and that's what it is. So that was our idea, to test the ingredient in the context we would use it for real, which in our case is in bigger beers to amp up even more the aromatics and help us a bit reduce the amount of vegetable matter that we put in the tanks that soaks up the volumes and
Gotcha.
those kind of things that I think you've heard before maybe. So we think the result was very good. It's great. It's a lot of fun to be part of that. It kind of forces our hand a bit to make room, to test new things, which is great because in the ordinary in the day-to-day basis, we're sometimes overwhelmed with work. We don't have much time to spare for that. But when you force our hand, we have a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, it's been a pleasure being part of that program. And this is the first beer that we put out. And in the next few months, there will be another one. It's kind of a twice a year kind of thing to give us a couple of months to brew, get feedback, get back to them, and then loop back.
And did they take that feedback and apply it to the hot product?
Yeah, they'll kind of choose which one they bring to market based on the feedback. So what they make available to us is already kind of proved by their team. They know it's not tasting bad or anything.
Of course, no.
But does it have potential on the market? At what price? At what concentration? What kind of quantity can they believe that we will buy them in a year? And it's all the feedback they're trying to get from those tests.
That makes sense. It's that's very cool. The program is dope, and this is an intense beer, dude. This is this is big. The head is bonkers. Like all of the heads on these beers, by the way, have just been like pillowy and silky, beautiful heads. This is it's huge and intense. Lots of dank stone fruit, melon, citrus. You got the white wine, obviously, from the Nelson in here because it's also got Nelson Crush and regular Citra as well.
Yeah,
this is it's packed. It's so big. It's if you like triple IPAs, this is absolutely what you expect and hope for.
We're kind of new at brewing them. We haven't made a lot of them over the years, but for the last year, I think, or so, we're trying to bring more. We find that people really like them. Even if we heard a lot of times like, higher priced beers don't sell as much and stuff like that. When you have the right flavor profile, I think you get the right crowd on the market will be fine. So in our experience, it's working very well. We like to brew them, we like to taste them, we like to make them available to people. And I think maybe less and less breweries are doing that. So I've heard Brewski also amping up a bit production of triple IPAs. So something we see as well. And it's part of the polarizing thing we were mentioning before.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. I'm seeing more and more breweries do triple IPAs when a lot didn't. Most almost like if you do, I would probably argue that breweries who do haze, you're going to find them doing triple IPAs at some point. So
once in a while.
Once in a while. They're not like all the time, but I feel like there's a faction of the market, as we we're kind of discussing before, about who would buy these that just love them. And there's obviously enough that makes it worthwhile for so many breweries to do them. But they're still not incredibly common. I don't think I really see them outside of like hype haze breweries. And that's talking in Canada and the States and anywhere else I've seen. So it's, there's a handful of breweries that would probably do it in each
I
province.
think you need, maybe it's a kind of process kind of thing. You need to have all the rest figured out before you go through that. We've dabbled with the style a couple of years back, but it didn't end up as beautiful as it is right now. So I think you need to have your process right. You need to have your ingredients right. You need to have your DO levels, oxygen levels very, very low before you try your hand at those kind of beers that will die if there's any oxygen in the can at the canning line. So
No question.
those are the things that I think you need to have, and maybe the hype guys, the haze guys, they got that right, and it avails them to go higher, to go crazier.
Would you do this? I was just wondering about the time of year. Is this like a year-round style, or is this maybe like a warm season style?
I think it can go. It can do both.
Can do both.
I'm yet to try it in the more wintry months. I think we've been higher on the production level for this for like 6 to 8 months. I can't say for sure how it really processes through the fall and winter months. I think so. I think the consumer is there. I think it's a warming beer, also as a refreshing beer, and the whole pack of aromatics. It's hard to copy. You have alcohol as a solvent, getting all those oils into suspension. You can't have it in a lower ABV kind of beer. So it's a higher dosage, and I think the people that like them in the winter, they like them in the summer, or the other way around. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can see that now when you're describing it. Yeah, I was just sort of trying to think about when I see them the most, and I feel like because as we've been sort of saying, I feel like I'm seeing them more and more these days from more breweries, and even in our collab, we ended up doing 2 of them out of 40. It was discussed in a few others as to whether that would be the move, and it was more like I don't have a problem with them, but I just don't have a lot of the way that I drink doesn't always fit them in.
Exactly.
So I was always like, I don't really care for it, but it's not about what I want. It's about what the consumer wants, because we're looking kind of like what you are. This is a collab. It's a marketing conversation, essentially. And we're thinking about an event. So we're like, all right, well, we definitely would need some sort of triple IPA at the event. Luckily, we ended up with 2, which was great. But it was like something that's sort of a little more of a niche product that, the specific market wants, but you got to have something like that there, just like you have to have a 12-14% stout, imperial stout.
But the occasion is everything, I think, because in those kind of beers, you can't sell that to people at the brewpub. That's not the place that they'll buy it, that they'll taste it. It makes no sense, because if they're driving, or if they just want their head straight going home, it's not the occasion. So you have to sell it at retail, which is when they will pick. Are they going to share it with someone, or are they going to drink it on their own, but they're at home, so it's fine. So it's all about the occasion, in my opinion. Same thing with the higher ABV pastry stouts and stuff like that, imperial stouts. That's not something that we sell easily at the brew pub, but at retail, evaporates. So it's the different occasion, maybe the same consumer, but totally different drinking occasion.
Do you sell them in 4-packs, or are they singles?
Always singles here. Yeah,
Always
the market is heavily single in Quebec. We're seeing more packs, 12 packs and stuff like that, but still heavily single. It's maybe a talk for another time, but I do think it's not a stable place for the market to be. I think it will morph. We'll see. I think more packs are on their way for sure.
Okay, that would be another part that we could talk about in the business of beer, because I would love to get into that. I always have there's 2 sides. As a consumer, I'm a singles guy, but if I was the business owner, I'd be a 4-pack guy. I'd be like, no, I'm selling 4-packs, but you have to hit the consumer with what they want.
But then again, as a business owner, you have higher margins on singles than you have on packs, because you're trying to reflect the volume, the buying volume, which makes sense.
Gotcha.
Same thing at retail.
So it kind of works out all right.
Yeah, and as a consumer, as your type of consumer, you're right. You want to taste a lot of beers, different beers, so you want singles. But as another kind of consumer, people are sold to some brands. It happens. It all depends. There are people only looking to have a good quality price ratio, or they have only one beer in mind. They want a lot of it, so it makes no sense for them to just liquidate the shelf single by single. Filling out their basket makes no. It's not a
Right.
knack that you're supposed to have in the marketplace. Makes no sense. You should have kind of the packaging that you want as a consumer. But right now, the province doesn't reflect that at all.
As far as the way the consumer behaves.
As far as if the consumer wants a lot of the same beer, right now the craft beer scene in Quebec doesn't allow that consumer to easily reflect that choice and take a 12 pack or if anything.
So you can't just make a 12 pack of your lager or something like that.
Yes, we can as a brewer, we can do that, but right now on the marketplace you don't see that so much. So the consumer has to pick a lot of single cans if they like Catnip. If the Catnip is their favorite beer, they have to just empty the shelf.
Unlike America, where they have a lot of the packs, is what you also
okay. Exactly. So I don't see how this could be stable over time. Only in Quebec, never seen anywhere else in the world. Why would that
doesn't
be
have
stable
it?
over time? I don't know. I think packs are on their way.
Yeah, honestly, I'm seeing it more and more, and I started seeing it more here. Like, obviously, I can speak to Ontario more, but every time I go to the States, there's a lot of packs, right?
Packs. And groceries, it's always
grocery.
Packs. You don't
always
snap.
Packs.
Yeah.
And even at, like if you go to Wegmans in upstate New York, they always have they don't sell singles at all. They have this section with singles, but you have to get a 6-pack. You have to pick up the little cardboard thing and you have to fill it up and get 6. Whereas if you go to the shelf or in the fridge, everything is 4-packs. But then they have, like, I noticed Willowbold out here. They did like a 12-pack of their short can Helles Lager that they're selling as this box. So that was what I can tell you right now. Willowbold.
Always curious.
No, like I love it. Helles Lager 12-pack. It's pretty smart. Here we go. Premium lager for $39.25.
Oh yeah, 39,
including tax. So it's $28.76 plus tax, so about $39 for a box of 12, and they are 355 mil. So the short cans. So call it 35.
So it's kind of a premium price, which is
not cheap.
Which is interesting for me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's some. As you've seen, maybe we dabbled with packs twice a year. We make a mixed pack. In the fall, it's usually a 12-pack mixed, and in the spring, it's usually a 4-pack tall cans mixed.
Which is the double IPA pack that we had.
That we did last spring, which changes every year. So it's been a couple of years that we've done that, and we're always premium stuff, premium price. It's our idea that we want to reach our consumer that wants bold flavor. We're not competing on price. We're competing on quality and being on point with what the consumer wants. And we hear back all the time from retailers. Every season, it's been 5 seasons. It's the same thing, same retailers. You guys are crazy. This will never sell. It's too high a price point. And we're like, this is beautiful beer. It's the quality price is there for the consumer that sees it. We trust that our consumer will see the deal because we're selling 4 double IPAs at like 20 something or something. But the retailer doesn't see it. So we're kind of always fighting back on that. And it's a lot of fun because so far we've been proved right. It would be, I think, less fun if we were proved wrong. But so far, so good. So the idea that having a premium product at a premium price, even in pack, could work, I think is yet to be proved on a year-round basis. But we're exploring that idea. So it's fun to see that in Ontario also. Even though the Ontario market is kind of has its reputation of low prices because the LCBO always kept things low, which is a shame in my opinion, because the market should regulate itself in some way, with brewers making the beer as they think the consumer wants them, at a price that they think the consumer will buy them, and if they are proved wrong, they will adjust, which makes sense. But the LCBO has its way of kind of wanting their product on their shelf at a certain level. And so I think it's a shame, because some kind of beers just can't make it to market in their network because of that. Like double IPAs, triple IPAs, you won't find the level of quantity, the quality that could be achieved otherwise by the breweries there, if they could ask for the price that would be fit for those kind of products that right now are not. They're not included. They're not there.
That's a good point. We've had a lot of conversations on this pod about pricing at the LCBO and how specific the consumers are. And I never realized how intense the pricing conversation was. Like, there's beers, as soon as it goes over $4 a can, people start to, like, the sales start to just dip out, you know?
And one of my problems with that is the perception of the retailer. Sometimes those kind of narratives come up from retailers or analytics companies using retail data. And the thing is, they cannot always unbias their data for the offer not being there anymore. So if I'm a new brewery, I try a beer, it's too high a price point, the quality is not there, I get it out of the shelf, people don't like it. So it kind of discourages the testing. And if the narrative gets a hold at the retailer level that they don't want those higher priced beer anymore because it didn't work in the past, then it's a kind of psychological barrier against those kind of beers. And it could work for another brewery, but if you don't allow it, you'll never know. So you can get stuck in that. And we see this a lot here in Quebec, with retailers telling us, hey, we don't want any cans higher than $5. And we're like, our Catnip is higher than that everywhere. We have like 700 retailers. We know it works. Let us try. And it's a hassle every time. So I think this is a kind of a friction that we see on the market a lot, which brings out the narrative, and it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy at some point.
Interesting. The pricing thing always is very strange to me. I wonder if it's like consumer education as well. Like, you know, and if you've already understood, you know, you've been operating for 10 years, you know what the market can sustain for your flagship beer. If anything, you know your flagship beer inside and out. So it's a little odd. And we were talking about this with the pack as well, by the way, when we were doing on Brew Day, you were explaining it. And it's a little crazy that at this point, like, you've been in business 10 years, you've been a big player in this world. The fact that there's 2 breweries in Quebec that has this forward program, and it's you and Meso, like, that says a lot about what Noctem has done for the New England world in Quebec. So for anyone to sort of bother you too much about that seems a little short-sighted. Like, it's like, come on, guys, like, fuck, man. Like,
they think they know, but they don't. The data tells them that, but it's biased, and they can't see the bias. We can, because we're in the middle of it. So
the other side, you're right, totally. And you've been balls deep in that shit for 10 years. Like, you know exactly what's going on.
Oh yeah,
and obviously,
and it's a shame to us that when market gives breaks to a kind of product that cannot exist under those price levels, it's impossible to bring this triple IPA under $5. There's no way it can be done by anybody. Right. So this product will never hit the shelf if you don't allow them. So it's a fight.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? Because I never thought, I don't know about you, but as a craft beer drinker, forget what either of us do. Like, I don't really look that much at the price of beers. If I want that beer, I want that beer. And I know it's not going to be crazy. Like, there's nothing really that crazy that shocks me. Yeah. If I'm sometimes if you're in the States and the big imperial stouts, the barrel aged stuff starts to get up there a bit. You know, I paid I think in Florida the most I paid was like $45 US for a bottle from Three Sons. that's probably like $60 Canadian. That's pretty insane. That's pretty fucking crazy. But like aside from that, I don't really look too much at the price because I typically know the brand. If I don't know the brand, I know enough about it. Like if I've never had their beer before, I know who they are and I know what they do. And I know what these beers cost. So I'm like, cool, this is what I'm getting into. It's still significantly cheaper than a bottle of wine, and you know, it's all good. But I sometimes wonder why people get, well, like where the conversation we're having about the price is very different to the LCBO conversation, because the person who's going to the LCBO, like Jeff from town, was saying that they have.
Yeah, I said John earlier, but that's Jeff. Yeah,
Jeff.
Sorry.
Jeff is the man. You guys, no, it's okay. You guys would definitely get along very well. Jeff is a good friend, and he was saying on the pod that like as soon as the beer goes over $4, you see those sales drop. It's because there's a lack of, you know, the consumer doesn't want to. There's a type of LCBO consumer now. It's not the only consumer, because I go in there occasionally, and I don't give a fuck if I'm spending. I would be suspicious of a $4 IPA.
Exactly.
As opposed to
because you know better, because you know the market which exists outside of the LCBO retailer stores, which is not the case of a lot of people. Like most people don't know about Badlands, don't know about Third Moon, which those guys are kind of in their niche, selling direct or having people drive to their brewery and making their purchases there, which is great because they make available those kind of beer that we like to brew, that we like to drink, which is perfect in Ontario. But it's also a shame that they only have those channels of sales to reach their people, because they're just blocked to entry by the rest. Well, yeah.
There isn't even much of an option, though. This is the beauty of the Quebec system with the specialty beer stores everywhere. That's opened up here now, but there just hasn't been as many. And then they open convenience stores, but convenience might as well just be LCBO. Because there are a bunch of people who own these places who aren't familiar with alcohol, who don't know beer, who don't know craft beer, who don't know about which one's good, about age, temperature, about age of the cans and age of the product and all this type of stuff. So we have stores like Durand, like Sidewalk in Kitchener and things like that or Waterloo, that are doing great stuff. And you can get Badlands and Third Moon and Willowboard and All My Friends and June Hot and all that type of stuff there, but it's almost
curated by people you know, by people that know craft beer. Yeah,
and the consumers are mostly also people that know.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. So it's almost like
it's great because it will make its way.
Yeah,
I mean, sometime it will make its way.
Yeah, it will make its way out, and it does. Like, say, Badlands is a great example because they're very close to Brampton, so they get a lot of people who just, it's a fun afternoon to go to a farm and drink on the farm, and they're maybe 20 minutes from a lot of places in Brampton, which is a suburban part of Toronto. So that works out kind of well. But I think I see people there that are enjoying. I'm like, I don't know how many of these people understand the level of beer that they're drinking. Like, I think they just think it's fun and they go into a place and this is cool. But like, I don't know if they know. But if you go to a place like Durand, and there are like, because of the law, so Quebec, I was used, because I lived in Montreal for 10 years. So I was used to going to the gas station or going to my specialty beer store nearby and being able to get beer in the supermarket everywhere. That was very slow to market here. So now that people are going to a cafe and maybe they're going to get a coffee and they're like, oh, you guys sell beer? Oh, I need some beer. And they're looking and they're probably like, I don't know who any of these people are. So they might be going through and they might be like, $7.75 for this beer. Like, and they might be shocked at the sticker shock at the price, and they don't always know. So it's sort of like, it's interesting to see sort of the pricing thing. But then there's also the nerds who know what's up. Badlands are always cleared out. Third Moon's always cleared out, that you go there, you're going to get what you can. If today is the day when it arrives in store. So if I go there on Saturday or Sunday, there might not be that much left because the people who know. But that's selling maybe a case of each SKU. It's not like it's moving a ton of product, So it's there's different challenges for each province, but there's still that I guess we're talking about that the pricing is that like it just doesn't, because I could go to, and I don't think this happens like this in Quebec. If I went to Vertu-and-Bière, which was down the road from where I lived in Montreal, like you would spend, I felt like beer was a little more expensive in Quebec than it is here, but I knew that I know what I'm getting myself into. If I'm going to buy Catnip or Moggie or any of these type of beers, I know what I'm going to spend for that level of quality. When people are coming to Durand or a place like that in Hamilton, because it's like, it's secondary, so there's no like wholesale price really. So they have to buy it at retail from Badlands, and then they put it in their fridge, and they have to mark it up accordingly to make their profit. The difference is, if I was to get it from the brewery direct here, I'd have to pay shipping, and I'd have to pay a 4-pack for the most part. But I can buy one, and maybe I pay $1.50, $2 extra, but I only have to buy one. I can buy one rather than buy 4. To me, that's a win. That's what I think
makes sense for you, that one that likes to discover new things and all of that. But it's a very unstable way for the market to be, I think. It's something that has to evolve over time. And that's perfectly fine, because those guys are making the products available because they know it's good. They know it warrants a place on their shelves. They know the consumer will like it. And it's all at a premium because the brewers are not used to distribute to retails and all that. But as time passes, for sure, there will be more stores, more availability, more consumer knowing, more demand. And at some point, LCBO or any other network will kind of make it a bit more available. And at some point, the breweries will catch up with volume, and they will be like, all right, that's fine. You have a lots of stores. I want to be available around the province, and I have the capacity now. So, all right, let's move up to that. And those kind of things will evolve over time. And I'm sure of it. But it's a shame that the LCBO kind of held the whole market back. I'm sure it did for a couple of years. It's not the breweries. Breweries, they can match the level of IPAs that we've done here in the past. And for sure, Badlands and Turn Moon are great example of that. But they didn't go big. But at some point, some other breweries will want to go big on that kind of product, but right now they cannot. Even though they could or would want to, there's no way they can bring to market a high volume of the kind of quality that Badlands and Turn Moon does, which is a funny thing to say. There's nowhere on the market to put it and to bring it to consumer right now.
That's such a great way to put it. Yeah. How do you, if they could ramp it up, what do they do? A great example, and this is, I don't know if there's as much of an equivalent in Quebec. Have you heard of Beer Town?
I can't say it. No,
okay.
I know.
So they have 13 locations. So Beer Town is based in Waterloo, but they have them. They're not. I think there's one in Toronto, but they're mostly in the smaller cities. Like there's one in Burlington. I went to one in Oakville the other day, and Whitby, which is near town. So basically, they're like a chain restaurant with really nice quality food that has killer beer across the thing, but it's very approachable for consumers. So it's like they have everything else. They have obviously a full bar and cocktail and wine and non-alc and cider and seltzers and all that stuff as well. But the beer program is phenomenal. They have stuff that's always there. Then they have these rotating taps. So Third Moon have their flagship called Bone Tree, which is similar to Catnip as far as, and they're always on tap at all the beer towns.
I wish we had that here. I was just thinking about that the other day, that I feel there's less and less offer, especially in Quebec City, for real beautiful craft beer on tap. I know a couple of places in Montreal, but here in Quebec, not so much, eh? I wish there was more.
Yeah. You know, there's a place called Beer Market in Montreal. Are you familiar with that? No? Okay, so it was another I worked at it in Toronto like in 2011, 2012. So it's like it's another chain restaurant because
And
you
they
know
have
Ontario.
one in Montreal.
They have one in Montreal in
Okay.
right near the Bell Center. So I've been to that there. It's quite nice. They do a lot of Belgian stuff, whatever, but they also stock a lot of local products. So that's the closest thing to Beer Town. But I think a store like, or I'm sorry, a restaurant like Beer Town is so important, is because they're an accessible entry point to craft beer for people not like us. If
I had
you and
in
me,
mind like vice versa when I was talking about tap rooms, very curated tap lines and 30 lines, very beautiful stuff to showcase. So yeah, maybe
it's
it's
like
kind of
that,
similar.
but a little more commercial, if that
Okay.
makes sense. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm trying to think of an equivalent that's in Quebec. Fuck. Do you know like Jack Astor's or Milestones or Jesus, what's a Quebec one?
I think
Not
I
l-
need to spare more time in Ontario. You
I think you might need to.
spend, yeah.
And I've just been away from Quebec so long I can't even think of. Oh, okay. Think Trois Brasseurs, but
Right.
other beers. So Trois Brasseurs, but other beers.
Okay. Beers from other breweries. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Beer Town is like Trois Brasseurs in the feel of it, where
Okay,
you
yes.
know it's a chain, you know there's a lot of them, but instead of making the beer, they're curating the beer, and it's one owner, one parent company who owns
Okay.
like 13 locations. So one of the girls was pouring at the first session, who's the manager of the Whitby location, which is near town, at our event, and she was amazing, Sarah, and she killed it. So they are like such an important thing to introduce people to beer, and you know, with great food, but then they can have a Stella or a Heineken or something they're familiar with, but then they've got all of the local stuff. And I feel like that type of environment introduces people to beer in such a way that it's not intimidating or pretentious or makes them feel stupid. Like you can't go in there and feel like dumb because they're so the servers are educated, they're so
And
nice
you're not
about it.
kind of confused about all those labels. You don't see anything on a beer shelves with 600 SKUs of
And they're
different
like,
beers.
ugh.
Yeah, it
Exactly.
makes no sense to your mind. So you're like,
Exactly.
I'll just go away. I'll just try something I
they're like,
already know.
I'm done. Exactly.
But at the
So
restaurant, I think, hey, what are you trying? Oh,
yeah,
just
this is kind of
try it.
cool.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah.
Yes, they'll bring you a sample. Like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. I just think that's like such a cool way to try beer.
Talking
And
about beer, do you mind?
Oh, let's do it. Let's do the next one, because I know we have to be careful with this triple because
Oh yeah, they get into the knees.
yeah, big time. Let's do the pill. Tell us about this one, bro.
Yeah, this one I love. Actually, this one has.
Oh, hold on. We got different. Oh no, we got the same beer.
I hope so. That's
Okay, we
Crazy
do.
Cat
Okay.
Lager. Yeah.
Do you know why?
The
I think
same.
because in my head I knew it was Crazy Cat Lager and I hadn't thought about it being a Pilsner. That's
Oh, yeah.
that's a great face that cat is making right there. Look at that.
Yes.
Look at that face. Whoa.
So
Hang on, my
this one
camera.
has a couple of stories behind it. So at first, that particular cat, is that's a photo taken from the winner of our cat contest that we
were
do
talking about
every.
this.
We do that every fall for the past couple of years. So
I
we
love it.
just ask people on social media, hey, just shoot us your best photo of your cat, and we'll pick up the next winner. We'll make a label out of it. But you do have to be in the Quebec region. So we bring a photographer, a professional photographer to your place and get a proper photo of your cat so we can use it as a label. So this one is the actual winner of not the 24th, 24th.
2024?
Yeah, it was last year's winner. So that particular photo of the cat is kind of
So
when
cute.
it's licking its lips with one eye kind of half closed, the other eye more open. We see the teeth, and it's a crazy kind of looking cat, and that was all about the
perfect.
idea that we wanted to bring to life on this label. So those photos, which is great, it's the photographer takes a lot of photo, and then we get to pick And it's usually the cats that we use are from photo banks and stuff like that, and the photographers, and they choose for you what they make available. So those half-tone kind of face you don't see so often. So we're glad when we can get a beautiful cat on a beautiful shot and a kind of original
I love it. Original kitty
face.
photo.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is perfect because it's like it's your like it's not something that someone else could use and find anywhere else.
Exactly. So this
Which
is
is perfect.
it's us, it's ours, and the Crazy Cat Lager is a brand that we wanted to bring to life to showcase what we can do in the lager realm at Noctem. I know we're not known for our pilsners and lagers. I think this is kind of changing. People are more and more aware of what we can do, and we wanted to showcase it in that beer and try to bring it to the market in a thoughtful way. So this design, that name, we spent a lot of time trying to figure it, getting it right. So even in the background, you can see the kind of mosaic that we do. It's a kind of optical illusion, and there is a lot of layer of thought in that beer, even though it's a pilsner. So people sometimes it's not obvious that it's so much work, but it is.
Oh,
so this is 100% SAS. Almost only floor malted Bohemian malt. I think there's a small part of Carafon or Carapils in that beer, but it's mostly floor malted, which is very traditional to Czech Pilsner style of beer. So this is a Czech Pils.
Okay, I'm ready for it. Gentlemen, cheers, brother. Smells great. Money.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. This is decocted too, right?
Oh yeah.
Decocted.
It's cool that you bring that up. I was forgetting about that step. Yeah, we love to decoct our pilsners and lagers. We always do. Decocting, for those who don't know, it's boiling the mash, the grains and the hot water. So we mix grains and hot water to bring out the sugars and ferment it down the way. And then we do boil that mash while it's infusing to do the decoction process, for those who might not know. We believe that it brings out a maltiness, a structure, a mouthfeel that's not sugary, so you kind of get a great mouthfeel and you don't play on the sugar too much. So it's a whole thing that we think brings balance to those kind of beers. We love to be able to do that, and we love doing it in those kind of beers. Yeah,
I love it. That's awesome, man. This is like fantastic. It's very it's a little almost trippy for me to have it after. Like I always start with a crispy, so it's funny to have it. This is beer number 5, and we're having it now, but it's
very
nice
tasteful. It's in no way dialed back by the triple IPA that we just had.
Not even in the slightest. It's so much flavor going on. I could tell immediately that it's like that decocted style pilsner, where it's just like this, it's like a quality to a pilsner that is elevated by that decoction, and like you said, by that almost all 100% floor malted malt as well. That it's a different level. This is fantastic. It's so bready. The malt bill is beautiful. The Saz is great. Just that nice grassy bitterness. It's just in there, which makes it just taste so authentic. This is fantastic. Is this a year rounder?
We're trying. We're very close to a year rounder. We've had some weeks setting out because it's so hard to foresee, since we take 6 to 7 weeks to brew those kind of beers. The market has time to surprise us between 2 batches. So it's one of the hardest to get year round, in my opinion, because it takes so much tank time.
Yeah. Which is always the biggest problem with everyone with crispies like this. Like it's just giving it the tank time that it requires.
So we just need we do need those new tanks that we're talking about earlier to make sure that this is a year-round beer. I wish I had it year-round in kegs and in cans. Right now we're more of a retailer kind of brewery. We are working on the on-premise kind of sales. But it's a lot of work to have the right products because, like we mentioned, it's not the same opportunity, it's not the same beer occasion, it's not the same beer people want. It's not maybe not the same pricing. So you need to kind of figure out what works in your market. It's a whole different game. We're getting into that. I think our products are very well suited for that. Thinking about Catnip or that great Cat Lager, even the Calaca Lemon. It's a beautiful beer to have on tap on spring on the patio. It's you can't have anything similar from the big guys, which is great when you're trying to make your pitch to a restaurant or a bar owner and saying, hey man, I have those beers that the big guys, they cannot offer you anything close to that. And I think your consumer would react positively to that. So let's try something, let's see. That's kind of the pitch when you're working against the big guys with the big contracts and those tap lines.
It really is. And you would hope that the restaurateur or the beer buyer at the restaurant would have a bit of an idea about the level of quality from local craft versus the big guys. And having this sort of elevated Pilsner for me, like I'm big, probably haze is probably my main thing, but crispies are very close second. Like I love a good fucking crispy. It's my favorite thing. And this is, we tried this together at the brewery. I saw it on Untapped that I'd had it there, but I didn't get to like review it. And we just had a bunch of samples. You were just trying to get me to try everything, which is smart because I had a long drive. And it's so nice to sit with this like in a can. Like this is like exceptional, and this is the type of beer that if I could drink this with like a high quality meal, like that's what I want every time if I'm able to do that. And I would imagine it sort of elevates the meal if I know that it's like by a local producer rather than a Bud Light or a fucking whatever, some other nonsense like that. Like this is the type of thing that I would hope that I think it's the duty of restaurant folks to understand the quality. Like a lot of the time they spend their time investigating wine and they'll know about that, but they don't always spend the time in beer. There's one place in Montreal. Yeah. We went to La Pierre Cochon, the famous pork restaurant, whatever. Do you know the one in Montreal? Pierre Cochon.
Pied de Cochon.
Pied au Cochon, yeah. And the beers, I don't want to say who they had on, but it was so shit. I think I just drank either sparkling water or some wine or something. I'm like, this is like such high quality food, and you didn't even think to get great beer. I was so disappointed, but we went to, say on the flip side, we went to Joe Beef years ago. This must have been 2013, 14, and they had like Le Castor, Yakima IPA.
Cool. Great.
And they had some really thoughtful beers, and I was like, this is amazing, because at the time that was like the peak of like Quebec IPAs. So whenever that was, it was back then. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. I didn't know that much about fine dining at the time or really high quality food, but I knew it was great food. And I was extra excited that I could eat this really great food with this fantastic local beer. And I just think that that's something that's important for restaurants to know. So it's a bit of it's great that you've got a beer like this to pitch to them. And I would imagine it'd be like, it's almost like you force them to try that, open up a can of your other stuff that you do and put it side by side and then tell me. Type of thing.
I haven't tried this specific strategy. I think it might work. The thing is, you usually get them, hey man, I'm in a hurry. just all right. So we'll talk next
Yeah.
time. So then you drop samples and you get them to try. And some of them are very knowledgeable about beer. Some of them are
Okay.
not. So it all
hard.
depends on the situation. Or they're like, I'm stuck in a big contract, and do you know how much Sleeman pays me? No, I don't know. What's even the point?
Oh.
It all depends. So it's a hustle. It's a lot of work. It's a grind to try to get those tap lines. But I think it's kind of a one-way street where every gain we make for craft beer will not be giving back to big beer, because the consumer, the owners, they'll see it's not the same thing. There's beauty in great beer, and you're trying to get great food to people because you want them to have the best experience. And why is beer a way, some kind of, don't want to say an accounting line or something as
Right.
trivial as that, but the whole food way, no, it's all about origin. It's all about what we choose, what we make, the work we put into that. But beer we have to make money on, so get out of here. So that,
Yo, when you
it's
put it
bound
like
to
that,
it's bound to change, I think.
it kind of has to. It's
It makes
as
makes sense.
I mean, it has to though. Is if you look at it in the sense of like the understanding of craft beer in the world has gone from nobody having a clue to like making fun of it to like, oh, this is like, there's so many people in my life that I've met that have like converted. I bet every single person at our event at some point was converted. Even I was converted to craft beer. Not that I ever thought it was bad, because I got into it early enough that I never had a bad connotation for it. But there's, I think there's just quality. I don't know. I like to believe that quality over time will always reign
Oh
supreme.
yeah, it will. It
Same
will.
as food. I hope so.
Yeah.
Man. Like
And
with music, with fashion and art and everything. But
I can mostly speak about anything tasteable, because in my understanding, everything that has kind of a greatness to it in taste, in food, in wine, in coffee, in teas, all of those kind of subtlety and flavor, they appeal to the same kind of neurological pathways to people.
yeah,
bear with
okay.
bear with me here. So
Yeah. Run.
when you taste something, it imprints your brain with an impression, which is anything like flavors and appreciation. So the more you taste one thing, the more you appreciate it. So, and once a pathway is built, it can be used for other flavors. So if you're a big fan of wines, you won't be eating crap food all the way, crap beer and crap everything else, and only wine is good to you. No. It contaminates. So even if, let's say, I want to get back a bit to the beer industry, even if craft beer had a plateau in the past 2 years or something like that, it's not plateauing. It's kind of evolving, because people still love to cook. They still love to, let's say, smoke their meat, make their own pizzas, and all of those things. They contribute. It's the kind of the appreciation of flavor. It's not something that you can stop, in my opinion. So if it's having a stable moment, it's kind of building itself for the next leg, which I can't wait to see.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. As you were describing that, that's kind of the exact argument that I've used in general. Like, I remember getting into coffee in Toronto and Montreal, and like I'm from Melbourne, where we came up with third wave coffee, but I didn't drink coffee in Melbourne. I learned in Toronto and Montreal. So I remember going from Tim Hortons to then Second Cup to then this one called Dark Horse, which was okay. And then in Montreal, I go to the real shit. I'm like, Oh, okay. Then my cousin from Australia came to visit. We ran around. I'm like, oh, okay. And just like learning. I was already doing the beer thing. I was doing the beer selfie thing. So I was drinking shit beer. And just by wanting to get numbers to try different beers, I was trying different stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is way better than that. Why am I drinking that when this is better? Then at the same time, I met Tiffany and we were drinking wine. So we would drink shit wine. Then we would go to the wineries in Niagara and we're like, oh, like this is a different level. And the same with food. You're eating McDonald's and then you go to and you start, you know, getting to nice restaurants. So you are, I agree with you 100%. There's like you don't drink great coffee, but then drink shit beer, shit wine, and eat fucking McDonald's food.
You learn to appreciate taste, which is the big thing.
So then then really, if you extrapolate that, the idea of growing people within beer, growing people as far as their understanding, their just education in beer, and just maybe their willingness to try different stuff should technically start with any of the other flavors that you mentioned.
Yeah,
excuse me, that's to do with the palate. Like if you're a coffee person, it doesn't make sense to drink PBR. Like you should really be going and drinking some whatever the local stuff is and then go from there. Or if you're, you know, you go to nice restaurants, you're not going to sit there and drink the worst quality wine, like, because they're not going to sell it. They're not going to sell you shit wine. So it's, you know, on paper, it should work out that people keep expanding their horizons. But the only thing I could say that's against that is that not everybody who is into one of those things, technically I agree with you. I think they should, because I was, and it sounds like you were too. Like you explore one of them, that you explore all of them, because it makes sense. You're like, oh, I'm exploring beer, so why wouldn't I explore wine?
Maybe it's not at the same rate. So you can be, oh, I'm a big wine guy, or I'm a big whiskey guy. And you haven't even thought about beer for a good while. But if I'm here, I'm in front of you, I give you two choices. You learn to appreciate. If I make you taste, I'm at a beer festival, I give you sample, then you taste our beer, then you see, you'll catch up quick, because you have the background, the tasting background to
wow, that's a great point, dude. That's such a good point. That it's like the best consumers for craft breweries to target are consumers of any of those other things, cheese, wine,
and same thing for
food,
any of
whiskey.
Those industries. Like if you sell coffee and you have a craft beer nerd in front of you, you'll be fine. He'll figure it out.
You can talk to them in their language, though. Like it's almost like the person selling it needs to understand all of the different things. So if you're at Noctem behind the bar and someone comes in and they're a coffee drinker, you could be like, all right, you like single origin Ethiopian? All right, cool. Well, think of it like this. Well, this is from Czech, and this is a Czech Saaz hop that's only grown in.
And then you'll get
Czech.
don't know, the kind of Earl Grey tea vibe from Ethiopian single origin Yergachief. I don't know.
No, exactly though. Like I know you're making fun, but that's exactly it.
No, I'm not, because I do love coffee, and I make my own. I torrefy my own at home.
Really?
And I'm a big Ethiopian origin kind of guy. So yeah.
Okay. Fuck yes.
Ethiopians I was making fun of saying Yergachief, which I'm very not sure of the pronunciation.
Oh, Yergachev? I think it's Yergachev. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to learn about coffee. I know very little, but I'm very passionate about coffee too. It's fascinating. We did a coffee collab, obviously, you know, at the event. We had the one with Found, and we use that in a few of the beers, and it's like, yeah, because it goes hand in hand, because it's sort of, but I know so much less. I can talk with you and other beer people for hours, but I couldn't do that yet with coffee. I would just have a lot of questions, and I would sound like a noob, which is fine. But I know
it's an interrogation.
It's an interrogation
and chat. Yeah,
right. I guess if I had I always wanted to have a coffee podcast, to be honest. I was like, if I had a coffee one, that'd be pretty sick. but I don't know enough about it. I would just be asking too many questions, so it's probably not enough. But I know way more about wine than I do about coffee because we've been to more wineries and I've been to a decent amount of distilleries. So I'm starting to understand the process a bit more and the difference between all the, you know, in Kentucky going there for bourbon and then all, you know, whatever. It's interesting when you really think about what you've positioned here is that like the people who are into exploring new flavors really should be into exploring across the, doesn't matter what it is. You present it to them, tobacco, fucking chewing gum, doesn't matter. Like,
would make sense to it. Even if they're not interested in it at first.
100%. So I wonder how breweries can proactively leverage that and start to tap into some organ, and maybe that comes through collaboration, like you were talking about going into a restaurant. So maybe it's about collaborating with restaurants, and then you have a pop-up there where you do a beer and food pairing evening at a kind of fanciest restaurant that's like that people can come through and they would normally have wine with that. But I'm like, oh well, if you didn't know, beer is actually significantly more there's more varietals of beer than there is of wine. So beer, there's a beer for every single type of dish. Like, you know, if you go to those wine dinners, I remember going to one in Prince Edward County, and it was sick. Like they have you have this like, I don't know, 5-6 pair meal pairing thing, and the winemaker's there, and she like talks you through. So okay, well this goes with this, and this is this carpaccio radicchio salad that mixes well with this Pinot Grigio and da da da. I'm like, fuck, sick. All right, cool. And you really you're tasting the flavors. Like say like the bitterness of the leaf of that you're eating there goes really well with the sour, you know, green appleness of the wine. And you're like, fuck, it does. That's amazing. Like, and you start to learn these things. And I think it's just, you know, it's people being open to experiencing that, but maybe they're consumers of the restaurant as opposed to the brewery, and you're just meeting them where they are.
I think the market is working its way towards that. We're very fortunate because we do have a couple of clients in the higher end restaurant business, which brings flavors like no one else can through their food, and they carry our beer because they know that we're as thoughtful as they are with our products. And we will bring them only the very best we can make. And I think they recognize that having like a macro beer on tap would make no sense to them, and their consumer are open-minded, and they love to taste, and they will recognize the value of those beers that we make when paired to their food. And it's all about the occasion. I'm not quite into the idea of, I don't want to take anything from wine. It's two different things. I'm not a winemaker, but I love wine, and I totally can respect their work. But if you have a beer with at maybe the end-ish of the afternoon before your meal, the beer overlaps with the appetizers, which makes a lot of sense. Then with the main dish, then you switch with your wine. All makes a lot of sense. We just need to open the occasion to the consumer so they can taste the right product to enjoy as best as they can their experience there. So that's I think it's a leap forward to be able to make place for craft beer in those places which we're getting traction into right now. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but when you get people that know craft beer, the connection is so easy. You meet them and they're like, you feel that they understand what you're not trying to sell them for the purpose of just setting them for the kind of one keg every 2 weeks. It's not the point. It's you don't have the right thing for your clients. Well,
no, dude, this is such a cool convo though. Like, I feel like we haven't really talked about this on the pod that I can think of before, as far as like really reaching the consumers on their level and the parallels between all of these different things that we're discussing. I think it's like, it's a great thing to be, it's a great seed to be planting in the minds of the breweries from the brewery side, but from, if there's people watching or listening from any other
hospitality industry,
hospitality, just to think about, and like you said, it's not taken away from wine, because wine is necessary in many occasions.
it's beautiful and it's good.
It's the best. Wine is incredible. I think it's just sometimes people have a lack of understanding of the adaptability and flexibility of beer and what it can add to an experience, to a culinary experience. And maybe they need to, like, I don't know, we went to one here, like probably I think the week after we came back from Montreal. No, it wasn't that. Whatever. Everything's been a blur. Sometime in May, we went to a beer. It was at a brewery in up in the Blue Mountains, and it was like a pairing, and they had their kitchen pair their beers with like 4 or 5 dishes, and it was phenomenal. I hadn't done that in a while, and it was so sick. And every beer had a great, and they only gave you like a 5-ounce pour, whatever, 4 or 5 ounces with each one. It was plenty to just go with, and they were all small dishes, of course. You pair it, and you're like, wow, this is so thoughtful. Like every different beer paired so well with all of the dishes, and the dishes were exquisite. They were so nice. So it was just like, it reminded me of how well beer can pair with like high level food. And it's more just like getting that understanding. And I guess it's easier if you've got a believer, like you were saying. If you've got someone who understands it, then they're like,
and
you could, then it's like it's a done deal. You just bring in your thing and you're like, all right, what do you need? Here's a bunch of different stuff. What do you think could pair with some stuff? And then they could bring it in. Because there's almost like if I go to a place, if I'm traveling, if I'm in Portugal and I go to a restaurant there and there's a craft brewery that they stock there that's local, I'm like, well, I would like that, because that to me has an elevated value because it's local, just like the food is local. That fish or whatever I'm eating is caught locally. So the beer, I know they have great wine there as well, but I'd like that to be made locally. So there's something about that. Like if you're in Quebec City going for a great dinner and they have Noctem on their menu, I'm like, well, that would make a lot of sense, because I'm like, these guys are local. The restaurant I'm at is local. I'm in Quebec City. I want this experience. This is and perfect.
You're right, because it does elevate I think it does elevate everyone's experience, but the tourists way more. So if someone is traveling, and Quebec City is a kind of touristy area of the province for sure, and you want to discover everything at once. You don't need it. The more so if you're a craft beer aficionado from your own country, you don't need Budweiser of that. It will make no sense to you. So having the local offer at least available to people is a big plus, I believe, the more so with tourists, so they can experience more at one sitting, because their time might be counted in the province, and makes a lot of sense for them. So by making our beer or any local beer available to them, you'll be rendering them a service. That's what they're seeking. But if you don't offer it, you don't know. And it's the same thing as a barrier to entry, like we were talking before with the LCBO. You're choosing for them, which is wrong, I think. You should let them choose and have the offer available. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. As well as like even having like an opportunity for people to try different stuff, because I feel like if you've got, and this is what always bothered me, like and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like the $4 consumer, the person who's price conscious, it's a fucked up economy. So you're not wrong to be concerned about spending money, because you want to make sure you're getting value on your money that you're spending. But I think there's the people who won't buy a beer if it goes for $4.15 as opposed to $3.95. If they tried the beer that's worth $4.50, then it's
they might adopt it. Yeah, for sure, because it's all about the flavors, and they might change maybe their way of consuming, and just figure, hey, I like this taste better. I'll have one instead of two, or I'll limit the
Sure.
occasions, but I'm not going back on my taste appreciation level.
That's it.
But if they're not exposed, they'll never know. So they might
Dude.
think it's a scam, but it's not. It's a
But they
separate
don't know.
product that you'll never taste if it's
Yeah.
not at that point.
How are they supposed to know if they don't get to try it? If they won't try it, you have to bring the opportunity to them. And I know you walk. I know, you know, in SAQ they do the same thing where they have tastings and stuff. They do the same. You know, they do tastings in LCBOs. It's I don't ever recall. I don't go to LCBOs very often, to be honest. But I would go direct to the breweries, or I go to Duran. But they do a lot of wine. They do a lot of spirits tasting or something like that. Like, I don't see a lot of beer tastings happening. And I feel like that would be so beneficial if you had like 4 different beers or something that you could get people to try and just give them a little, you know, shot worth of it, or sip, to be like, hey, this is what this is. And this is $4.50, but it's, you know, then the consumer can understand, hey, this is way better than my other one. It's only 55 cents more.
And
than what I was
funnily,
paying.
they don't put all those barriers to pricing with other products. So you can have wine ranging up to infinity and scotches and everything, but beer, oh no.
Oh
beer,
no,
keep it
$4
low.
is no better.
That's the most we'll take for sure.
It's crazy, and I bet the $4 one is just one conversation. We've had many conversations where there's like the guests I've had, say, from Ontario, knew all of the price points off the top of their head for all of their competitors that, say, in the lager space. Like, yeah, that one's $2.65, that one's $3.25, and they knew all the different ones, and they know how people respond to all of them.
Yeah.
And it's that's what explain, like, sort of not explained, but that's what sort of illustrated to me how important price is to a particular segment. I don't think that those people listen to this podcast very much.
No, for sure.
You know,
for the sake of discussion, I get that. Yeah. And one of my biggest curiosity those days is where is the pricing for a true premium lager, like I think we make, which is a beautiful beer that I enjoy very much, and I taste beer all the time. So
of course,
I'm quite aware of what's on the market, and there are great breweries making beautiful lagers, but most of them are smallish distribution.
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering, will people see the value in a kind of upper end Pilsner or something like that? Right, we're kind of dabbling, trying to see. We know IPAs, the IPA market very well, but lagers, kind of new. Yeah.
Have you seen a ceiling for a lager price in Quebec? Like, is there a price where like people just were like, "Fuck that, I'm not paying it"?
For sure, there is. Where it is, I don't know. I've not tried it with my own products. I think we're kind of upper end priced, but I've not. I have not tried the limit. It's not. So at some point, we want to be aware of the value, to be fair. We want it to. We want to have a fair margin, but we want to have the product to back it up. We want it all to make sense. We want to be aware of our competitors and the other breweries.
Right.
It's a hard game to keep track of. If you compare with formats, the scarcity premium that might be paid for some occasions, it's hard to figure out.
There's a few different things.
And now the newest segment is the packs. So I'm very much interested in trying to bring like the crazy Cat Lager in packs.
Could you do that in like 12 pack, like the Willowbow, 12 packs of short cans?
We can do everything, but it's all about pricing. It's all about bringing it to production, making sense of it, and at our scale, does it make sense? I don't know the Willowbow guys enough to know if they're what's the kind of equipment that they use, what's the kind of volume that they brew. I have no idea.
They're way smaller than you guys as far as the size of the brewery.
So and boxed like we would do for sure when we compare with bigger guys like Judicial who have equipment to fold their bags into place. They have this economy of scale that we won't have, but we're not working with the same kind of products as they are. They're trying to they have a different segment in mind with their marketing that we would aim at. But I have no idea what's the niche for premium lager, premium in the Quebec market in 12 pack. It's kind of specific. I think we'll have to try, like we said.
Yeah, if there's a way to like pump out like a small volume of it, like say you
try it out.
Yeah, like you do a big batch of full cans of Crazy Cat Lager, but you push off like, I don't know, 100 12 packs of small cans and just be like, let's just see how it goes and then test. I don't know if that's what they did with their Hellas Lager, but I'm like, it's
maybe
that I can think of. It's one of the first from a smaller brewery that I've seen. I know Collective Arts have done things like that. Like for Costco, they did a special mix pack of their non-alcoholic stuff with like 4 different SKUs in a 12 pack, like 3.
Costco's a different consumer.
It's a different consumer base. It's volume. Yeah. But I think they only had a couple of pallets, to be honest, because when I went there, I seen it in Costco since, but I was visiting, it must have been last year, like September, October. And they were like, yeah, this is going to Costco. And they had 1 or 2 pallets. It wasn't even that much. So I think they were like testing it out as well to see if it worked. So
I'm
it's almost like
now here you'll have to connect me with the Williband guys.
Williband? Oh yeah, I know. Cam's the mate. Yeah, Cam's a champion, and he would be happy. I would love to see a Williband Noctem collab. I feel like that would be very much a great thing because they do some awesome haze. They do some great crispies. I feel like you guys could do something really fun together. You guys are both amazing breweries, but they might be able to give you shine some. Yeah, bro, more than happy. Do you want to take a quick bathroom break again since we broke the seal, and then we'll hit that last beer?
Yeah.
Well,
thanks.
All right, we'll be back, guys. Oh, and we are back.
For the last beer.
For the last beer. Man, you picked a heavy hitting lineup for this one. Eh?
I think so.
2 doubles,
a couple of
double.
Yeah, and our flagship at 7.5. Well, that's not quite a double.
Not quite, but you know.
Close by.
And then 2 a lager and a Gose. It's a fucking tasty lineup, and it's very hectic. But you know what? We made it. We made it through, and we're gonna jump into this glorious gem right here. This is Double Fractale.
Yeah, this is the Double Fractale. Some people might know about the Fractale. This is an IPA that we've made a bunch of time. This is the first time that we declined it into a double.
Cool.
I chose it for the last one because as crazy as that seems, it's hoppier than the triple that we've had. This just might be the hoppiest beer we've ever made to date. It's crazy beer.
No way.
As an IPA, it's already very hoppy, and making it a double was like you have to crank something up. So it's just getting through our usual seedings. So yeah, it's pretty freaking hoppy.
And what is it like the hop? Is it like the hop saturation? The like just the volume, like what's the what makes this one more intense than the triple?
It's more hops per volume. Yeah.
Gotcha.
From the top of my head, I consider a hop ratio, but it's getting the higher end that we've ever done. So we're kind of hitting 30 grams a liter on this one. And we usually 28 or something, and we're usually more between 23 grams of hops a liter, which is kind of where we felt kind of saturation was, but it's kind of the story of our lives where we think there's a ceiling, but there's not. Then we try it, and we like it, and then we adopt it as a new basis to operate. So yeah, that's how.
That's amazing. And this one rocks Nelson, Citra, and Mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you are right that the nose is arguably more. Yeah, it is more intense than the triple.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. I love it very much.
Is this how many times have you done this one? Is this pretty
It's
new?
the first. It's a first.
Oh shit! Looking at
And you had it fresh, so it's just hitting the shelves now. So in a week, it will be, I think, kind of widely available in Quebec. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Oh, hang on, did I take the photo yet? I can't even remember. Yeah, and this is this you were talking about, where you're saying that, like, I feel like Nelson's been in a few of these beers, so I feel like it's this is what you were talking about as far as Nelson being such a big part of many of the IPAs that you're doing.
We love it. We've been loving it ever since it came back in style. I think in the past few years. Beforehand, Nelson was like one of our favorites in our homebrew days, but it went out of style for a while because it wasn't widely available anymore.
No.
And then in the past few years, we've seen it being more and more available in great quality. So we're having a lot of fun brewing with it. It's a beautiful hops. There are some hops varietals that there's beauty in them. It's the Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, Nelson Sauvin. Those hops are staples for a reason. They have complexity and lots of layers. There's beauty in them. So Nelson is known for its like Sauvignon Blanc and white grapes, passion fruit kind of vibe, and its dankness, which makes it very profound and complex. Like Citra, it can carry a beer on its own. So it's very fun to brew it. It kind of brings everything together.
I love it. And with that, so
beautiful beer you have there.
Oh, look at this! Look at this gorgeous thing. Look at that separation line with the head. Oof, I love it. The nose is massive,
and you get the dankness in that beer. It is dank. It's
oof. Oh my god,
tropical.
You're right. Fuck,
crazy stuff.
It's like. At first, I thought it was like a citrusy, but it's that white grape on the nose. But it's a dank version of it. This is very intense. You were right in the best possible way, because an intense
beautiful
haze is, oh gosh, man. Once again, the head. It's just, I don't know if I can really like show it on camera, but the head of all of these. No, it's not going to work. I'm going to spill it. The head of all of these beers has just been insane. Is there like a secret to that, or is it? That you could say, why is the head of all of these beers, like every single one without exception, has been this like silky, pillowy, just beautiful foam? Is there something?
I couldn't say precisely. Head, it's a lot of things. It's a protein structure, and proteins are more. It's dependent on the grains. It's also more soluble in higher pH levels. So maybe it's our mashing programs. Maybe it's the target pH that we have. It's hard to tell really, but I think it might just be a reflection of how we brew here. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, Jesus, this is intense in once again in the best possible way. There's like all the tropical fruits, mango, like papaya, grapefruit, like dank citrus. It's a little like I feel like it's like a little bit like piney, and sort of a little grassy in there, because sometimes, like you said, the Nelson delivers that dank, but sometimes it also comes through on that kind of thing. It's very tropical fruit forward, though. There's like just a little touch of stuff in the background, which I think gives it a bit of character as well. Like when haze is has a little bit of that, either pithy grapefruit or a little bit of pine or something like that. I quite like it, just to kind of like balance it out a little bit. It's this is awesome. This is brand new. Like this is fresh, and this was, I can't see it because the date was printed on the corner of the can, so it says
was
June.
canned a couple of days before we sent that to you last week.
Amazing.
I guess.
So yeah,
June,
it's like a
June
week
11?
old.
June 11.
June 11. Oh, beautiful. So it's like 2 weeks old. This is crazy. So this would be out by the time people hear this pod. It'd be out in distro everywhere.
Yeah.
Dude, this is fantastic. So the original Fractal, has that been around? I have a can of that, actually. I have to have that. I want to, now I'm extra excited to try it, to see the difference.
Yeah, so original Fractal, it's a green label with a cat and a kind of tentacles all over the label. This one is Double Fractal with a kind of a cat, the same cat,
Two cats.
a double of itself.
Yeah.
Well,
So
double
cool.
of himself and all the same tentacles on an orange label. Original Fractal has been around for like 18 months, 2 years. It's always a heavy hitter. It's a great beer that we enjoy very much to brew, to drink, and it sells very well. In this market, we always have to kind of test SKUs and beers. I say SKUs from time to time because we use that language for in our marketing in our beer programs. But this particular beer, the Fractal, is one that kind of made its way to become a staple of our lineup that we can bring back with some frequency without seeing it get a decrease on the velocity of sales. So we've had great results with that beer, and I understand why. It was a beer designed thoughtfully, the label and the recipe. So when we chug out so many SKUs, so many beers a year, some of them are kind of, I don't want to say more quickly designed, but kind of, sometimes we try something with a we decline some other recipe that we already know into something new, and we try that, and then if it doesn't resonate with people, we try something else. So not every beer we make is designed the same exact way. Sometimes it's a collab that brings us out of our usual way to brew, to design recipes, and it might work, it might not, and then we work around all of that. So it's always building on the feedback we get from the marketplace, from the consumer. This one in particular was designed more thoughtfully. We wanted to have a heavy hitter. We thought about it a lot. We worked on it a lot. Same thing as we did with Crazy Cat Lager. So those beers, they tend to reflect the care that we put in. Yeah,
I can see all of that in everything you just said. Then is definitely what I got from all of the beers that we're having tonight. Like, and I think it's even more like having this super fresh one off, and then a triple, which you don't do too often, and our collab, and then all of and then the crispy. Like, I feel like even just like you look at Catnip, and just that, like, I'm like, fuck, that is just such a phenomenal beer. Everything is amazing. I think it's extra cool that you pay that attention to a flagship that is out there year round, and that really is the beer that you hang your hat on, that people can try that at any time. And that beer has to be on point all year round, because that's the brand right there. And I think that's really the best example out of all of these. Obviously, they're all great examples of the can. I think the Crazy Cat is exquisite. Like, I'm a big lager person. That was fucking amazing. I think keeping Catnip to a quality standard is got to be the most difficult, because New England IPAs are just finicky and difficult, and they're heat sensitive, and they've got a short lifespan and whatever. I can see exactly what you're saying as far as your quality control. This was sick. This was really cool, man, to like hang out and chat about this stuff, and then to try like 6 beers back to back that of all different sort of styles, and to really see exactly what you're referring to. Like to understand it. Once again, when we were there, I was trying all the what do you call it, little tasters and stuff, sample just to get an idea of what's going on, and that was awesome. This is now a bit of a on a deeper scale, I guess, because we're able to do that, and I can see exactly what you're talking about. This quality is exceptional, and it shows. That's why you're around for 10 years, and that's why that you guys are some of the OGs of Quebec Haze. I feel like you guys. We did this podcast series back in 2020, and because it was 2020, what happened. Everything went down, and we were talking to Quebec breweries who were doing haze. We called it Against the Grain. It was just Quebec breweries who were doing haze before it was cool, and everything got cut off because we had a bunch planned after the fact, after COVID, and we started it in February. So by the time it got to March, we only got 4 episodes done. We had a bunch more planned. And I feel like that would have been like a perfect season to have you on to talk about this stuff, because it was like you guys were doing this before it was cool, and it shows that you've been able to refine the style and really make it your own, and then obviously have tons of SKUs since then, based off that one beer that kind of like put you on the map. It's very cool.
We had to reinvent our way of making IPAs more than a few times across the way, along that timeline, for sure. So I think the beers that we make right now reflect all this work that we keep bringing to the table, and we never stopped. And I think we never can, because the other breweries, they won't stop. And the newer guys, they might come up with novel ideas about how to make IPAs. And if we get to taste them and we recognize there is something very interesting there and that we want to achieve that, then everything's off the table. We need to work on that. And it's it's been our attitude all the way, I think. Some breweries are more kind of trying to always lead, always design the newest thing. It's not exactly our attitude. We try to make the best beer possible by our taste. But if we taste something else on the marketplace in Quebec or anywhere else in the world, and it just springs us to do things differently, and then there's no going back to that. And I think it could be a grind. It's always work to be put on, but we can't wait for the others to catch up to us, and then it doesn't make sense to us. So we always have to level up. We always have to up our game, get a deeper understanding, work on our process to get the best possible beer. And it's happened more than a few times. I could point in the timeline, that beer reflects this level, that beer reflects that step we took. And it's happened at least 4 to 5 times in maybe the 7 years that we've been running the facility here. I think every 2 years, it's kind of a rule. Every 2 years, everything changes.
Everything. For the better, though. It's because you've got new techniques, new processes that make the beers better. And that's really all you're trying to do.
There's no sleeping at the wheel here. There's no way to do that.
I love that. And I feel like that's the vibe that you've really presented tonight. And, from yourself and from your partners, like, obviously I know Jan and I met Brian as well. So, like, you guys are just not fucking around, man. It's really cool to see. I like the way you operate. I like the way you guys think. The way you move is super positive. In that, I mean, like, going out of your way when no one else in the whole province was like, I'm going to go to the Ontario thing. I know I brought that up. I'm just like, I'm so impressed by that. Because I was like, that's when we connected. I was like, no shit. Like, because I knew Brian. And I think you and I had spoken before on email. And like, I know we met at Merit. the first night, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you're just out here just chatting with dudes and like just connecting and stuff. Like, this is amazing. So even just that in the ethos of the company. So it's like that applies to business development, to recipe development, to networking in general, to connections, to collabs, to all the different things. And I feel like you guys are a fantastic like benchmark on how breweries should maybe conduct themselves as far as like think about these things. Like if you're in Ontario, consider going to the AMBQ in Quebec. How many Ontario breweries go to the AMBQ?
Not many, I can say. I've been to 11 edition myself, and I've seen Bim. He was there.
Okay.
I'm not sure he spoke that year though. When they're speaking, I think they should be there, so that kind of makes sense. But I wasn't speaking at the OCB. I was just there hanging around, seeing opportunity, or talking about beer. Let's just connect, talk about beer. Makes sense to me. But yeah, I think when I find myself alone in those kind of places, I feel like I'm at the right place. If nobody had this idea yet, maybe I'm onto something, or I'm at the totally wrong place. I don't know. But usually it works out.
Yeah. I think you're in the right place, man. I think it's like, I definitely now I like if you haven't already organized stuff, I want to see Noctem collabs in Quebec, in Ontario with the breweries that you connected with here, and I'd love to see them out there. And if there's any way I'll talk to you off air, but if there's anybody I can connect you with that you're like, I want to do a collab with them, or I want to talk to them, I'll connect you with anybody I know. I think that is like, because I moved here first and then I lived in Quebec.
Yeah.
I noticed that neither side in general was aggressively pursuing the opportunities on both provinces, and just because I was not from Canada at all, and then I went to one, then moved to the other, I'm like, why am I in Quebec and then no one here is going there? Why is no one from Ontario really coming here? Like,
it's barely starting, I think, and maybe we hats off to maybe Guillaume from Le Catch, who does that a lot.
He's the best.
He just might be the only one doing with such
consistency.
Yeah. He's
Sir
really
John Brewski do it,
Yeah.
Meso, but it's not at the same level of consistency as Guillaume. Guillaume has got to be the number one.
Yeah,
with that, that's great. Yeah,
for sure.
And
So
I feel like
guys, hats off to those guys that try to build those relationships and those discussions and get that cross border, which the border doesn't even exist, not in the physical way. So there should be much more of those exchanges between breweries, between provinces, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. And on that, probably one of the last things we should touch on, speaking of that, that's a great segue, is all of the talk about the removing of those provincial borders. So for more free trade within Canada. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about all of this? I've heard mixed things from breweries. How do you feel about it all? What do you expect?
Yeah, my understanding, what I was told is that we can expect a bill to be deposed in the fall that would, in Quebec, that would allow us to direct sell to Quebec consumer, which we can't. And I think the idea is the reciprocity between provinces, and then get the Ontario market maybe available to us, and their breweries being available to sell to our consumer here in Quebec. This is my understanding at this point, but I've seen no legal regulation being deposed yet. It was what I was told between the branches. And I can't wait. Seriously, I think it would be a big opportunity for Noctem, for our brewery, to reach out consumers that might be interested in the kind of products that we make in the province and outside, for any provinces having reciprocal regulation with us in that way. I can't wait to have the possibility of reaching directly our consumer with our beer. It's a brand new channel of sales. It's a brand new marketing kind of sphere, which it interests me very much. It's all sometimes I wonder if it's all about the complexity of. I'm interested in what's complex. I think the puzzles, like we mentioned, but
Yeah.
this is one. The marketing, the sales and marketing in 2024, 2025. It's a big thing. It's complex. It's a big ecosystem. There's a lot of players. There's a lot to be figured out there. No hard truths, and I love it. I think it's very interesting, and having this open up would be a big thing for me, big place of interest. I don't know for sure if it's a channel that has any weight in sale for sales for the kind of the profitability of the brewery. I don't know that for sure, but it's interesting per se to be able to reach the people that are interested in the products, that can maybe work as a brand ambassador in their own locality. I don't know, local community. It's a lot of new things. I wish they'll be able to bring that into fruition. I can't wait to know more about it. I was told at the beginning of September we might have more tangible information. That's a
Okay.
fun.
I mean, that's encouraging. I mean, I think it would be great, obviously here we can order from any brewery and get it shipped.
Mhm.
Obviously, I was in Montreal the whole time watching people in Ontario being like, man, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. So Derek from Brewski said on the pod, his concern with this was like, by opening the borders, it might not necessarily create new craft beer consumers, but it would swap one for the other. So he's like, for example, instead of the local person in Montreal ordering from Brewski, they'll go and order from Superflux in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But they won't go to Brewski in lieu of that, as opposed
Mhm.
to creating new consumers. But I wonder if like there will be somebody in Vancouver who's going to go and order from Noctem instead of their local brewery as well, and it would kind of balance out. And hopefully, the opening of those borders would see the stores, like if the specialty beer stores in Quebec could then order from anywhere in Canada, they might have a bit of a different range.
Mhm.
The breweries in Quebec will be able to ship everywhere, and that
Sure.
goes for all the different provinces. I don't know. I see it as a net
Yeah,
positive.
I
You
can
might as well
see.
have open trade.
Yeah, I see the argument that he's making in that way, but here's another way to see it. If, for example, someone from Alberta comes and travels to Quebec City, has our beer, find it so beautiful, they like it so much, they come home, they can't find it anywhere. They don't have a clue about Brewski. They don't know those guys. They don't know Superflux. They don't know anybody. They wouldn't have ordered from anybody, but they know us, and we tell them, "Hey, you can have this delivered at your home when you get back." And then they start this, and then they figure out,
Mm.
"Hey, might as well try some of the other guys." And if every brewery works its marketing, works its networks, it's building the whole industry up. So I think there might be the consumer conversion in this change of laws in that kind of way, because it, maybe thinking it's just switching from brewery to brewery is kind of uh, fixating one variable, which is the relationship everybody has every day with every brewery in the whole country, in every way, at the restaurants, traveling, not traveling, marketing, getting from some kind of media attention. We never know what can pop up. But now having media attention for in the western part of Canada could help us having sales, which was never the case before. So it's interesting. I think it's bringing down barriers. It's a win for sure for the whole industry. I think so.
I really like that positioning. That's a great frame of how it could go, where it's like someone who isn't a craft beer drinker, period, would discover one brewery, could order from that brewery, start to become a craft beer fan, and it just goes from there. Because isn't that how it works? It's the equivalent of somebody here in Hamilton going to the local brewery, and then they keep going to that local brewery, and then they might be like, I'm really liking beer. These guys make all this fun stuff. I'm like, someone at the brewery might have come in, they start talking, and they're like, oh, yeah, I just went to this one down the street. Like, oh, yeah, I should check that out. And then all of a sudden that expands, and they start traveling. And when they're traveling, they're like, is there a brewery in this town? I should check out the brewery. And then it's like, that's how it goes. So you're right.
It does also, I think it might at some point raises the bar, like competition does in general. Is this a bad consequence? I don't think so. I think in any marketplace, you need to react to the trends, to what consumer tells you, and you need to be aware of that. It's never done. You're never isolated from the others. So if it's direct, that's one way. But there's so many breweries in all those cities right now. So competition is here anyway.
There is a lot.
I feel that way.
Yeah, I think, you are right. There's a lot of competition, but I think your explanation of how it could work, and I know it's theoretical, but I think it's a really great example of literally how somebody could go from traveling, visiting Noctem, going back home, ordering, then being like, oh, well, if Noctem are great, that means maybe other beers in Quebec are great. They order from there. Then you might be like, well, I'm ordering from these Quebec breweries. I'm in Alberta I live here. Let me go check out what's going on here. Then you start checking out, like, oh, fuck. Well, I'm going to Vancouver next week. Let me see what's going on there. And then they just start to expand. And, maybe they came to the brew pub for the food only, and they didn't even know. They thought it was a restaurant that had their, oh, you make the beer here. Okay. There's many ways to expose people to craft beer in general, and opening. I don't see many downsides with opening trade, and I think your example is a fantastic one. And if we can all just, it might just help that availability, because when it's not available, most people won't go out of their way to get it. Not everybody has a proxy in Montreal or in Vancouver or whatever. Like, if I want stuff, I got a mate in Vancouver who can get me stuff. I got people in Montreal who can get me stuff or whatever. But if you're newer to beer, you don't have all these connections. You can just go and line up for beer and get all the shit for you. Like, you want to be able to just get it. So if it just makes it a little bit easier for people to acquire it, then it maybe is going to make, arguably, it just evolves from there. And it's like, okay, I like that a lot. I like that perspective.
And direct shipping is not the big piece of the market anyway for anybody, I think.
No, during COVID it was, but not now. No,
it won't change the essence of our business.
No, but it opens up new people, and I think it's more like if you're here and you've gone and heard about this brewery in Halifax or whatever, and you're like, I've always wanted to try their stuff.
It's cool to be able to reach.
And then maybe you order, and you're like, oh, that was as good as I thought it was going to be. We're definitely going next summer to Halifax, and now we're going to go visit it, and then we're going to go visit 4 or 5 other breweries in the area, and and it just keeps going from there. Then it just puts it in your head that you can do it, and if you can order from, and you're like, oh, this is a big country. There's so many cities and so many great breweries in all of these places. I can do whatever. So anybody who tells me something good, then you just want to be like, I want to try something different. And maybe you'll have your regulars, local, maybe your regulars from somewhere, but it doesn't matter. But I think it just opens it up. And if I was owning a brewery, I would prefer that consumers from anywhere in the country could do it. And it's an additional revenue stream when there wasn't a revenue stream before. That's the best way to look at it. There is in Ontario, but I don't know if anywhere else can do it, to be honest. I don't actually know the laws. If you're in Alberta, can you order from a brewery online? I don't know. Maybe. Do you know?
Couldn't say.
Yeah, see,
I don't know.
none of us even know. So like every province is so different. So I know that in Quebec you cannot, but I know you
Mhm.
can here. And it's a very, I don't do it very often because I have a place like Durand and I
Yeah.
travel around enough that I'm able to go to the places. But I know if I wanted to, I absolutely could. If I'm like, oh, Durand doesn't get that brewery, I want to order from there. I can order from there tomorrow, and I'll get it from there, and I'll split it with Nate or something like that if we need to. Like, it's cool, and I like that convenience. And I only really get Quebec beer if we're doing a podcast, and I don't visit as often as I would like, or if Nate would go over the border and go and pick some stuff up for me or something like that. So if I knew that I could just order from Noctem anytime, that's a bit of a game changer for somebody like me who would love to drink some more beer from Quebec.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. I'll try the novelties, the new beers, put a bunch together, share that with people. Makes more
exactly
sense.
Order a case, enjoy that for a bit. Cool. You're like, exactly. Share some with people, split some with people, whatever. But just to sort of like, that's the exciting part about beer. And it means, maybe if you're not going to Quebec for a while, at the very least, you can get some beer from there that's going to be fresh because you can order it direct and you don't have to get it from someone who got it from someone who got it from someone, and it goes down the line. So it's okay. I really like your attitude on this, man. I think it's a cool take. And with that, look at we're at like 3.5 hours.
It flies, eh? I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. Was there anything else that we didn't touch on that we want to make sure that we get in?
No, I think we can maybe catch the next opportunity if something comes to mind.
Okay, well, I like that a lot. Well, we have a business of beer coming up in the coming months, so you guys will see that, and we'll try and make this an annual thing now. Now that we've finally got you on the pod, we've been hanging out with this year. We've hung out a bunch, so I think it's great, man. Honestly, JM, I appreciate you a lot, man. I think what you guys are doing in Noctem is phenomenal. These beers are so fucking good, dude. They're so good. I feel like you don't get the props that you do, probably because you've been around for 10 years. And I think brewers who've been around for 10 years don't always get the credit that I think they aggressively deserved. And, from the incredible lager that Gose was amazing. All of the haze has been phenomenal. This is just like, I think you really did a great job curating a lineup of beers that reflect what the brewery does so well. And you're all really thoughtful people who are going out of your way to travel and meet folks and, shake hands and put the brand out there. And I like I've said, I value that a lot. I think that is just so cool that you bother to do that. I feel like that's why you've been around for 10 years and been so successful and will continue to be around, man. And, you're a really thoughtful dude and you know so much about all this stuff. And I really appreciate this conversation. This has been super fun. I've been looking forward to this. So thank you for your time, dude.
Seriously. Yeah. Thank you.
You're a champion, man. Where can everybody find Noctem in real life and online?
Yeah. We have 2 locations. One of them is in the District Saint-Roch, Quartier Saint-Roch in French, in Quebec City. And we have the facility at the entrance of the Quebec City in the District Saint-Malo, I think. And you can find us online. Our generic email is info@noctem.ca. You can email me direct to jmnoel@noctem.ca. You can find us on Instagram. That's Noctem_artisan plural _brasseur plural also. Yeah. You'll find us on Facebook, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you guys are posting regularly. You guys have got all the new stuff coming out. You got a really great social presence. So check that out. Follow Noctem. Stick around afterwards. I'm going to wrap this up and we'll chat off air. But JM, thank you for your time, brother. This is I don't know why my camera keeps freezing.
My pleasure.
It's not dead. I am here, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, not for me, but for JM, for being such a legend, for Noctem, for Quebec City craft beer. And guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.
Cheers.